There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want.
George isn't lying.
Government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, from Charlotte. Another line going from in Florida down to Tampa. Of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. The idea that Los Angeles and what am I doing here? For two reasons. One, let's be clear. I hear it all the time. Cumulative deficit, I can pay for the programs many times over.
Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America.
Welcome back to another night of Shtick with Koolfrogg. I got quite a night ahead of us. Got some interesting things that have happened throughout the day. Got some Virginia state primaries, kind of an interesting ordeal on what they've actually done to their state. We're going to cover some Hunter Biden's deal because, you know, it's all it was exactly that, was just a deal and a shit show in itself. We're going to actually cover the submersible that's still missing that we covered last night. Those that didn't actually catch that, make sure you actually go back and maybe listen to that for sure. And many other articles. I usually have so much that goes on that we usually make it about 2 to 3 hours. So let's get moving here. Let's say hi to everybody that's here. Anybody that, you know, say hello. I'll say hello back. Hello, Boomer, if you're still with me. Good to see you, dude. Good to see you. Great Liquor, what is up? I see you over on that Rumble side. I know everybody seems to be busy at the moment because, you know, there's other places that are running live streams and doing their thing as well. I get it. I understand. It happens. And there's plenty actually going on. It looks like there's at least a couple people with several people sitting around. And we'll play it off. It's okay. We'll let them do their thing as soon as they're done, or maybe we'll see some people drop in here. We'll have an audience. Maybe we'll see. Otherwise, you know, I'm here. Here you go. To start off, breaking Pentagon accounting error leads to 6.2 billion extra for Ukraine. It's now extra money. It wasn't just that it was more money or plus the money. It's extra. If it's extra, why is it going to Ukraine? Why can't we just keep it for ourselves? What's the point in actually sending the extra to them due to an accounting error? You know, if I go to the bank and it just so happens to be that there's $6.2 billion extra sitting in my account, do you think they're going to leave it in my account? I really don't think they will. I think that that would actually go and they'd take it back. Right. No, not extra. Exactly. Great liquor. Not extra. It's not what it is. There's no reason to actually call it extra in any way, shape, or form. So it says on Tuesday, the Pentagon announced that Ukraine was provided with an additional 6.2 billion of U.S. taxpayers' money due to an accounting error that had been discovered in records pertaining to the United States shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Pentagon spokeswoman Sabrina Singh explained that there was a $3.6 billion error in the present fiscal year, in addition to $2.6 billion from the fiscal year of 2022. Huh? In addition to? So it didn't actually just be, there wasn't just an error this year. There's also an error last year. It really sounds kind of horrible to actually continue to, believe that this is going to be just all okay. Associated Press concluded that the Pentagon consequently has additional money in their coffers to use to support Ukraine in the pursuit of counteroffensive against Russia. Singh made the announcement during the press brief in which she explained that the accounting error happened in a significant number of cases that resulted in overestimating the value of equipment drawn down from U.S. stocks, and said that Biden administration employees received further training to prevent future mishaps. Sure, they did. I'm sure they got plenty of training to prevent future mishaps. Future mishaps, nothing big to see there. During the department's regular oversight in the execution of Presidential Drawdown Authority for Ukraine, we discovered inconsistencies in equipment valuation for Ukraine in the significant number of cases. Services use replacement costs rather than net book value, thereby overestimating the value of the equipment drawn down from the stocks provided to Ukraine, the U.S. stocks provided to Ukraine. Once we discovered the misevaluation, the comptroller reissued guidance on March 31st clarifying how to value equipment in line with the financial management regulation and DoD policy to ensure we use the most accurate accounting methods. We've confirmed that fiscal year 23 and the final calculation is $3.6 billion for fiscal year 22. It is $2.6 billion for the combined total of $6.2 billion, she explained. These valuation errors in no way limit the restricted the size of any of our PDAs or impacted the provision of support to Ukraine. And while the DoD retains the authority to utilize the recaptured PDA, this has no bearing on appreciated U.S. AI or Ukraine PDA replenishment funding approved by Congress. The Pentagon spokeswoman concluded, since the war broke out over a year ago, the U.S. has provided over $50 billion in aid to Ukraine, with much of it going toward weapons and other military equipment. Being that they think that they're only so many millions of dollars extra over and above what they valued the equipment at. Does it go up next year when increasingly go up as our dollar has a tendency to sink and be worth less than it ever had been? In recent months, there's been a push for certain members of Congress to have the government reveal exactly where the money is going and where it ends up. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene has stated numerous times that she wants to audit every U.S. dollar sent to Ukraine, explaining that every single American deserves to know where United States tax dollars are going in Ukraine. It's not for the war against the war, she said. It's just asking for transparency and oversight of the American people and where their billions and billions of dollars are going. And that's exactly what it is. It's our billions and billions of dollars. the American people's billions of dollars that are actually being squandered and handed out to almost anybody. With I just find it so super ridiculous to actually believe that this is something that we're actually worried about. Hey, Vicky, how you doing, dear? Good to see you. Wait, what? Intentional accounting error. Send some of the extra to Koolfrogg. 10% for the big guy. I mean, you can send me anything that you'd like. I'd totally appreciate it. If they want to send billions and billions, my pocket could use it. My pocket could use it for sure. So it's the valuation of equipment is pretty much where that actually goes to. It wasn't just an accounting error. It is what they actually valued the equipment as, and they just kind of, as opposed to actually saying, okay, we're only going to send this many billions of dollars worth of equipment. They just sent whatever they had. They didn't care how much it was. They sent it. Hey, how's it going, Charlemagne? Good to see you, dear. This extra $6.2 billion, again, split up between 2 years, that they've actually made this mistake. 3.6 billion in error for this year, 2.6 billion in error for last year. It's just billions of dollars. It's nothing huge, nothing that we need to just be like, oh my god. It's absolutely something that we need to be. Oh my god, what the hell? Why are they sending our dollars in billions to Ukraine over and over again, and then gonna actually just write it off like it's no big deal? It's just, as they stated, extra. What's up, Axiom? Good to see you. Good to see you. Kind of ridiculous in itself. I had to throw that at the very beginning because I wasn't going to actually do anything to do with any other foreign stuff tonight. But to see that was something that I'm like, nope, that has to actually get brought up in the very beginning of the show. So like I said, first thing that we should that I wanted to cover, whatever, would be Virginia state primaries. Virginia state primaries is very interesting in itself to see what they've actually been doing with it. Oops, I forgot that I had this one up there. We'll go back and we'll cover that after we do these primaries. Daily Caller goes out and says, a fucking landmine, unprecedented redistricting of disrupting all of Virginia state's legislative primaries. Virginia state legislative primaries on Tuesday are facing new challenges due to unprecedented redistricting by the state Supreme Court in 2021. This year, as the first time Virginia's General Assembly faces an election with the new districts, prompting mass retirements, incumbents facing each other, and delegates running for this state Senate. It's really seriously funny to actually see that they're actually saying incumbents facing each other. When you actually hear that, it's like they redistricted so much and, quote unquote, gerrymandered their way through it, and actually went ahead and made it, what it is, to actually make incumbents run against each other. That could actually be dangerous in itself. Resulting in possible generational shift in leadership, state GOP experts told the Daily Caller News Foundation. And those three letters right there, GOP. GOP experts are, said something about it, whatever. It really seriously, most likely, is going to actually point in the other direction. And they're going to actually be the GOP is going to be the one that's probably going to end up being without. I think it's the most disruptive election year we've seen in Virginia in generations, if not centuries. It's going to be extremely disruptive. Jeff Frederick, former chairman of Virginia GOP and former Virginia state delegate, told the DCNF. Virginia's Tuesday state legislative primaries are facing unprecedented challenges due to redistricting, causing mass vacancies and lawmakers having to compete with new territory. GOP state experts told the Daily Caller. The state's Supreme Court redrew voting districts in 2021, and Tuesday's primary are the first time in Virginia's General Assembly has had an election since. The new districts have caused mass retirements, incumbents facing each other, and state House members running. Hold on, I gotta do something quick. I can hear my computer getting ready to. Gotta close something out. Every time I hear my computer, I was just got try thinking too hard. It's like, no, you're not gonna die on me today. The new districts have caused mass retirements, incumbents facing each other. They're just repeating these paragraphs, from up above. It says, I think it's the most disruptive election year we've seen in Virginia in generations of centuries, extremely disruptive. It's like a landmine. I mean, it's everywhere. There are 7 districts holding Republican primaries in the state Senate and 9 in the House of Delegates, while 15 districts are holding Democratic primaries for the state Senate and 16 at the state House, according to Virginia's Department of Elections. 2 districts are facing incumbent matchups. Nearly 30 state lawmakers choose to retire, and more than a dozen delegates are now running for the state Senate, according to the Virginia Mercury. The biggest challenges these primary candidates are facing is garnering name recognition in the newly drawn districts, which has created a fundraising bonanza. Chris Saxman, executive director of Virginia Free and former Virginia state delegate, told the DCNF. Frederick said that there's many younger candidates coming in and saying, fuck the Virginia way, we're going to do it the new way. Along with the generational shift, Saxman said that the primary, that was in quotes. That seriously was in quotes. Fuck the Virginia way. They're just like brutal coming out and be like, we don't care what the Virginia way was. We're not going to go off of that any longer. If we're going to actually do what we want and how we want, and that's the way it's going to be. It's not our money. It's whatever special interest group is control of the nation. Article 1, Section 8. Who pays for it? Who pays for it, Axiom? Just a question. What's up, Rose? How you doing, dear? Good to see you. Good to see you. Along with generational shifts, Saxman said that the primary results will provide insight with the speed in which Democratic Party is moving to the left and how strong an influence former President Donald Trump has on the GOP legislators. Saxman argued Virginia's primaries are important to look at from a national standpoint because Virginia is a bellwether. Of course they are. About 90% of the seats will be determined tonight or by tonight. Some have already been determined because the nomination is a general election for all intents and purposes. The vast majority of seats in Virginia legislative districts are in can't lose, can't win districts. The incumbent party can't lose them, and the challenging party can't win them. Period. Virginia was considered a red state until former President Barack Obama flipped the state blue in 2008. And in 2016-2020, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden won the state's electoral votes for president. In 2021, Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin succeeded Democratic Governor Ralph Northam, beating his opponent by nearly 2-point margin. That's not a narrow 2-point. I don't care how 2 points is not enough of a margin for me. You're going to have to do better than that to actually make me believe that it wasn't something wrong with that particular issue. I really seriously don't like 2-point margins. You got to do better than that. You got to go up to almost a 5-point margin before you actually start telling me that this is legit. I don't believe it. Republicans currently hold a slim majority in the state House, and Democrats hold a narrow majority of the state Senate. Youngkin is hoping to hold on to the House and flip the Senate in November. Youngkin has made a long list of GOP primary endorsements and is backing 20 candidates for state Senate and 46 for state House, according to press release obtained by the DCNF from the Governor's Spirit of Virginia Political Action Committee. Youngkin has been very effective in getting his preferred nominees in the ballot and his endorsements will really make difference where here because of Republican primaries aren't an issue based, said Saxman. Frederick and Saxman said more than ideological in-party fighting is occurring in the Democratic Party, specifically in the issue of abortion. It really seems that for whatever reason, abortion just so happens to be a huge talking point for the Democratic left. They really like to actually push the issue when it actually comes down to um, what Virginia already has currently. They're pretty much trying to actually push it to be where Virginia would be a place where you wouldn't be able to abort after a certain age or a certain so many weeks. Youngkin released the advertisement video on Twitter in mid-May, sponsored by his state PAC, where he promised to usher in a new era of American values while drawing on themes from former President Ronald Reagan. The campaign like video revamped rumors that Youngkin was still considering running for president in 2024, and reports emerged that an announcement would come until after the state's election in November. So it could be another person actually looking at running for president. We have enough. We really do. We don't need any more actually coming out and being like, yes, I want to be a president as well. Please, please let me go ahead and actually run for president of this great United States. There's enough. There's enough. We don't need more people to water down what is there. And it's going to get watered down even more as we actually move through this. I'll kind of show you some of that as we move through tonight. We'll be driving awareness on Governor Youngkin's leadership style and discussion of some key issues like parents and education. An advisor. Did I skip the whole paragraph? I did. Youngkin released an advertisement video on Twitter in mid-May, sponsored by his state PAC, where he promised to usher in a new era of American values. A new era of American values. I really hate how they actually try saying, "Oh, we're going to change the American values. We're going to change them to actually be this, that, and the other." Leave the values alone. Quit trying to actually push your ideological bullshit on everybody. And I can call it what it is because when it comes down to it, I was one of those that was, that had voted for Obama twice type thing or whatever. I was there. I was on the left. I totally understand what they're about and why I'm so disturbed with them actually thinking that they can continue to do what they're doing. We need to actually step up, stand up, and actually pay attention to all of this and actually, let it be known. That being said, if you're actually here watching, make sure that you go ahead, you hit the like button, and then you share this out to all those places that you like to share things out to and let them know where you like to hang out. Article 1, Section 8 through the 14th Amendment says we are here to pay for their general welfare. Yep, it sure does. And that's who's paying for it. Us. Us. We'll be driving awareness into Governor Youngkin's leadership style and discussion in some key issues like parents and education. The advisor familiar with the governor's political operation told the DCNF we're continuing the conversation with key constituencies in Youngkin coalition, swing voters and Republicans who are critical to our turnout efforts in the fall. Frederick believes the election is marginally favoring the Democrats and said that if Republicans win in November, it'll only be 1 or 2 seats. Whoever wins the primary, they're probably going to win the general. It was kind of, to say that in itself, whoever wins the primary is most likely going to win the general. Really? It's just that simple and easy for you just to assume that, hey, we won the primary, we're going to win. We're going to win that general. There's nothing that anybody can do to actually try stopping that because in their minds they have it already. Let's hope that people actually do wake up to this issue and actually think about it. So then, one particular person in particular that comes out of Virginia that seems to catch the highlights more than anybody. Hey, what's up, Suzanne? Good to see you. Awesome. It just ended. Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you for letting me know. Progressive oust pro-life Democratic Joe Morrissey in Virginia State Senate race. Former Delaware Lash Crease Aird was projected to win the Democratic primary in a key Virginia state Senate race, according to the Associated Press, unseating the controversial state senator Joe Morrissey, Democrat, in the contest that focused largely on abortion. Aird was backed by a slew of high-profile Democrats in the state, including Senator Tim Kaine, who were determined to oust the scandal-plagued Morrissey, one of the rare pro-life Democrats still serving. And that's why he was controversial. That right there. You can't be pro-life and be a Democrat in the same sentence. They don't like it when you do that, and they don't want you to actually think that way. Mad Core Mofo, what is up? Good to see you, brother. But pro-life Democrats, nah, no, those don't exist anymore. They don't want those to exist anymore. You can't be pro-life, be a Democrat. If that's the case, you can't be a Democrat and a Catholic at the same time. And that's something. It's that black and white. What's up, Texas, Jen? Good to see you. It is that black and white when it comes down to it. It seriously is. Catholics do not, and are not pro or anti-life. You have to actually be pro-life to be a Catholic. That's part of their belief. For you to think that it's not their belief would actually be wrong. And that's why I pick on Joe Biden when he actually says that he's a devout Catholic. You can't be devout Catholic and actually be pro-choice. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Aird went after Morrissey after attacking him and his openness of implementing some abortion restrictions in the state based on his religious beliefs. Morrissey told the AP in recent interview ahead of the election that he believes the decision about whether someone should have an abortion should be between a woman and her doctor. That right there, exactly. Between a woman and her doctor. Not anybody else. Not some Joe Schmo that works at the Planned Parenthood down the street. Not after a certain time frame. And that doctor was going to know somebody. Seriously, know somebody that is having issues trying to have a child, and will totally help anybody that needs the assistance of giving their child to somebody that will actually care for it without an issue. Without an issue. There's so many people on this planet that actually would love to have children that can't. And then there's the ignorance of women believing that it's okay for them to abort all the way up until birth, which is gross and disgusting in itself. You're just going to murder children because you think it's okay. But also that abortion should be banned after a fetus can feel pain. And I agree wholeheartedly that once they can actually feel pain, there should be a line to be drawn. There should always be a line be drawn right there. But for some reason, these Democrats are going against this one particular because he's so controversial. Morrissey's defeat is also a blow to Governor Glenn Youngkin, Republican, who is pushing for increased abortion restrictions in the state, where the procedure is currently legal through up to 26 weeks, according to Planned Parenthood. Again, Planned Parenthood, one of the worst companies ever created. Margaret Sanger and Bill Gates Sr. Should never have been allowed to create what they did with that and cause this mass genocide of our young. Youngkin has called for a 15-week ban with some exceptions in place for allowing abortion beyond that during the legislative session, but Senate Democrats defeated that bill. Morrissey told AP that he likely would not have supported the 15-week ban because he has not seen evidence that fetuses can feel pain at that point. He co sponsored a bill that would have instituted a 20-week ban, but failed last year. As the primary approached, Morrissey declared that he would give up a wake up call to those in his party that spent money to try to defeat him and help Aird win. He said he had a connection with his constituents that Aird could not keep up with. He said Aird is trying to make the race all about abortion, but voters have brought up issues like economic development and gun violence. You know, Jay-Z, I can't stand kids. Old people are annoying as also. You know, me being a father of multiple children, uh, uh, 3 to be exact, all 11 years apart. I really seriously love children. They're the best thing. And without my child or my children, I doubt that I would still exist as a human. Boom, nailed it, Frogman. Preach it, brother. I'm right with you on that, Suzanne. Right with you. DNA, dads never abort. These things, these issues of economic development and gun violence, you know, they have their arguments in themselves. Gun violence in itself, you know, guns don't kill people. People kill people. And economic development, we can see where the US dollar currently is and what you know what we actually need to do to actually do anything better would be to actually probably eliminate this current administration and try going back on some of the stuff that he's actually created to actually cause the inflation that we're currently dealing with. Morrissey has also been a subject of controversy with a personal scandal surrounding him. Virginia public media reported that Morrissey's wife has filed for divorce from him and alleged that he physically and emotionally abused her. She has denied the allegations, or he has denied the allegations. And of course, the way most places actually look at it is, they're going to go along with whatever she has to say, because she's a woman, and women, always have the right to actually go after men, and men have nothing. They have no choice. They've no there's not no option for anything when it comes down to a lot of different things. Alleged that it's sad that it's just alleged. It's alleged. It's not that it's actually physically true or not. But when it comes down to it, just alleged. Go ahead, divorce each other, fine. Take away that sanctity of marriage, and see what happens to this man as he actually continues down this long road that they're actually pushing him down because they don't like him, though he actually says he's a Democrat. I'm sure that we'll hear more of Morrissey here in the near future. Uh, that being said, let's kind of keep on going. So, because we're talking about Virginia primaries, it seems as though they were supposed to have a majority of this actually figured out tonight on these new districts that had been created and who is going to be what. So then, I'm not going to read this, whatever, but you can kind of see state senates, Democrats hold a narrow 22-18 majority in Virginia State Senate. Members serve 4-year terms. You can really see there's an awful lot of blue blocks. So Emily Scott, there's a 0% on that. So who knows exactly what's actually exactly happening with that particular race. Virginia State Senate District 1 Republican primary. Timmy French. We'll be paying attention to a couple of these names uh, in and around as things actually progress. Um, There's nothing that there's a lot of zeros, so they really haven't actually finished with a lot of these um, runs that they're races that they're actually assuming that we're going to be done with tonight. Um, Kind of sad to actually make you believe that, oh gee, they didn't finish it. They didn't finish it in time. If you actually think about it, it's after midnight. It's after midnight for them, and they still hadn't finished it. They still hadn't finished it, and this is updated as of right now. This is updated as of right now, and it's not finished. So this is the only one that's actually finished here in the District 1 Republican primary. They have actually chosen a Republican. It looks like Emily Scott goes maybe unopposed, so maybe that's why it's at 0%, and she would actually have that area. These districts that were redrawn really changed a lot of things, and you can see like there's a line straight through Virginia Beach. Why is there a line straight through the middle of Virginia Beach? Why are they splitting major cities up to actually make it harder for these people to actually run for these parties that they so badly want to run for? It's kind of disturbing that they were unable to actually finish that. They were unable to finish it, and there's nothing that we can do about it, and there's nothing more that we can actually say. Um, so then there's one thing that I skipped over that I said I wanted to go back on, before we actually moved further. It was this one in particular. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez is running for president. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez filed with the Federal Election Commission Wednesday to join the 2024 presidential race. He'll be the third candidate from Florida to seek the Republican nomination, although he starts with much less name recognition than former President Donald Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis. Suarez, easily reelected to a second term in Miami's mayor in 2021, will also be the first Hispanic in the race. He is scheduled to give a speech at the Reagan Library on Thursday. We'll probably catch that particular speech if we can. The Super PAC supporting Suarez was also announced Wednesday, and it released this ad. I'm not going to actually watch the ad because you can actually see that there's actually a warning label on it. It's not that it's really a warning, it's just a warning that liberals may find disturbing. And because liberals will find it disturbing, most likely uh, in itself means that YouTube would also have that issue. Uh, so then let's go ahead and pull up the whole field. Everybody that's actually running for this current this upcoming presidential run. So there you go. You got your three Democrats: Joe Biden, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's actually kind of controversial in himself. There's a potentiality of him getting to talk to a gentleman, a doctor in particular, to go along with Koof, and he was offered. The doctor was anyway offered some couple $1 million to actually go ahead and I see you, TR. What's up, brother? What's up, Winnie? There you go, TR. Give you that back. Give you that back. Either way, you can see you can see that Joe Biden, Robert F. Kennedy, and Marianne Williamson actually being those Democrats, and then here's this huge field which is actually going to continue to grow. Doug Burgum. Did we hear about this guy? Have we heard about this guy ever? Nobody knows who that guy is. How about Corey Stapleton? We've said his name a couple times, but that's the only time I've really heard of him. There's Francis Suarez. Then you got all these larger names: Donald Trump, Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, Asa Hutchinson, Nikki Haley, Larry Elder, and Ron DeSantis. Kind of disturbing in itself to actually see the very large field of both Democrats and Republicans that have the tendency to actually think that, having that many, I really don't see it being safe or good for our country when it comes down to it. Great liquor. Holy gratitude from my dude Koolfrogg. $30 super chat. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Thank you. That is wonderful. I appreciate it so much. There was one other thing that I had about presidents, I believe. Where did it go? We're going to actually talk about some other stuff here shortly, as opposed to actually just talking about this. Did I not have it in order? I must have actually lost that particular article. There's an article where there's somebody that actually wrote about each one of the potential nominees for the GOP side. The one thing that I found the most hilarious is when they got to Larry Elder, they actually said, "Not worth my time, on to the next." That was all they had wrote about Larry Elder and himself. And I just kind of like, oh, okay. Let's kind of move on with this a little bit. Again, thank you so much, Great Liquor. I appreciate it. Here's the other one that I had about presidents. So there's 3 articles, and apparently there's only 2. Boebert moves to force vote for impeaching Biden over handling of border. So I know that we've talked about her actually, throwing articles of impeachment. Marjorie Taylor Greene throwing articles of impeachment, as well as another that had actually thrown articles of impeachment out on this particular president. It seems as though once you actually start doing things and paying attention to them, and you actually see how things work, you have the tendency to actually, just believe that anything that comes out of them is not worth a damn and should actually just in itself be impeached. Rep. Lauren Boebert is forcing the House vote on impeaching President Biden over his handling of U.S.-Mexico border and immigration policy, making a surprise privilege motion Tuesday evening that will require House floor action on the matter this week. Walking off the House floor on Tuesday, Boebert said that while House GOP leadership was aware she would make the privileged motion, the date of further action was still being scheduled with leadership. A notice from House Democratic Whip Catherine Clark, Democrat of Massachusetts, on Tuesday indicated that Democrats would make a motion to table the resolution when it comes up for a vote on the floor, a procedural move that would block the resolution from coming to the floor for a vote. Boebert's impeachment resolution, which she introduced earlier this month, includes 2 impeachment articles, one for abuse of power and another for a dereliction of duty. So 2 different articles of impeachment that have actually been produced by Lauren Boebert and herself, one for the abuse of power. The abuse of power, when it comes down to it, is tremendous. We've actually seen very, very large amount of abuse coming from this particular president to and from, really. I mean, the elderly abuse on him, as well as his abuse of power in itself, really seriously is disturbing to watch and see. And another is the dereliction of duty. I don't believe he's actually running the country as is anyway. I believe that this country is currently being run by the likeness of Barack Obama. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. In the first impeachment article concerning abuse of power, Boebert charges that Biden knowingly presided over the executive branch that was continuously, overtly, and consistently violated federal immigration law by pursuing the aggressive open borders agenda. And he's pretty much, first day stopped building the wall that Trump had tried building. I'm not saying that I'm really for having a wall built in between two countries. It seems really firm and hard to actually believe that that would actually be a good thing. But at the same time, giving certain entrance points as opposed to just having an open border where anybody and everybody can just walk across it without an issue hasn't just brought people from South America. It hasn't brought people from just Mexico. It's actually brought people from over 150 different countries that have actually made themselves into and around South America, and they've walked themselves up and around through Central America, through Mexico, all the way up into the United States. Um, and it's seriously not just one group or of people either. There's so many different walks of life just crossing that border like it's nothing. Without the intention and ability to ensure that they appear on immigration court to face asylum and deportation proceedings. And in the second impeachment article of dereliction of duty, Bobert's resolution points to the deportation cases being at historic lows and deaths caused by fentanyl. In response to Bobert's move, the White House accused House Republicans of staging political stunts. Instead of working with President Biden on solutions to the issues that matter most to the American people, like creating jobs, lowering costs, and strengthening healthcare, extreme House Republicans are staging baseless political stunts that do nothing to help real people and only serve to get themselves attention. Ian Sams, a White House spokesman for oversight and investigations, said in a statement. Boebert did not predict whether her impeachment articles would pass or not. We'll see. I mean, I hope the Republicans and Democrats alike can recognize the invasion that's taking place in our southern border and that the laws of our nation are not being faithfully executed and that we have the opportunity to bring a check and balance to the invasion that's going on, Boebert said. Boebert's impeachment push comes in ideological ally, Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, is forcing another vote in censoring Rep. Adam Schiff for his hand in the investigation into former President Trump. Now, we actually covered this yesterday or whatever, and the day before on Adam Schiff and them trying to actually get him to actually pay $16 million, half of the $32 million that was used um, and handed out to Ukraine in itself. For them to actually go after Adam Schiff is tremendous. I wish that it would actually have taken place, but it seems as though there's quite a few rhinos out there that were okay with what he had done, and they allowed it to continue. And it also comes with the Republicans have turned their focus on the business dealings of President Biden's family members after his son, Hunter Biden, agreed to a plea deal involving federal tax and gun charges on Tuesday. I have several articles to go along with that particular subject, so I'm not going to hit it on that right now. And asked why she was forcing the impeachment articles now, Boebert said, it's been time. It's past time. Most House Republicans hungry for retribution over the U.S.-Mexico border have focused on Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas rather than Biden. Last week, the House GOP launched an investigation that could serve as the basis of eventual Mayorkas impeachment. And I'd be totally down with that. I think there's an awful lot of people in this current administration that need to actually be looked at, either censored or that in itself impeached and removed from office, whether it be Alejandro Mayorkas, Schiff, or Anthony Blinken. Those are the ones that have actually that come to mind, other than the fact of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris themselves. Susan, I'm about to walk my arse, arse over that border. I mean, you might as well when it comes down to it. It might just actually, be feasible for you. You might get a whole bunch of money for it. Great Liquor says Koolfrogg is here 6 days a week. I appreciate his badass work ethic. That makes me feel better that I'm actually doing something, and that there's somebody that actually does appreciate what I actually do produce. He also appreciates your efforts, hoping on the other pond to support him. Yes, hit that other pond. Anybody that's sitting over on that Rumble side, hit that thumbs up button for me. Rumble that out. Let them all know that's that if anything happens over here on YouTube, we'll still be there. We'll still be there. Every single one of you over there, all 490 followers over there, will still be there. So, Rep. Boebert actually going ahead and trying to push for the impeachment of one and only Joe Biden is something in itself and very interesting. I have, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 different articles, 8 different articles that go along with Hunter Biden's deal. Oh, there's 9, 10 of them. There's 10 articles that go along with that. So if I start repeating myself, I'll probably catch myself through the articles and just be like, all right, I'm going to actually stop. I'm going to actually, do what I can to actually stop, reading and repeating things. I had grabbed so many of them because each one of them has something slightly different in them, in themselves. So I'm going to actually do something slightly different here. I'm going to actually pull these articles into a different tab. So I can share the whole thing all at one time and go from article to article. There's no videos that we really need to actually see to go along with any of that, so we should be okay. We'll do this one first. Who is this from? This is the Federalist. It says Hunter Biden's charges are nothing but a diversion. Biden's DOJ is letting Hunter walk away with the kind of a slap on the wrist most defendants can only dream about from inside a prison cell. What a breathtaking and damaging act of misdirection. After 5 years' investigation into a host of criminal acts by Hunter Biden, the Department of Justice finally brought charges against the president's wayward son. But while the DOJ hopes the public focuses on words like charges and guilty to form an image of accountability for all, it's letting Hunter walk away with a kind of a slap on the wrist most defendants can only dream about inside the prison cell. In the same breath in which DOJ announced it was filing charges against Hunter Biden, it also stated that the case had already been resolved. Hunter will plead guilty to and serve probation for 2 tax fraud misdemeanors, while a felony firearm possession charge will disappear after he completes pretrial diversion. It's a resolution that, if the defendant's last name weren't Biden, would sound almost too good to be true. The feds are notoriously tough on firearms nationally. For example, 94.2% of federal firearms convictions in 2022 involved some prison time, and the median sentence was 39 months. Of course, Hunter won't even have to end up with a conviction. This is an even rare event. In 2021, fewer than 1% of the cases filed by U.S. attorneys in federal court resulted in the kind of pretrial diversion offered to Hunter. It's that disparity between Hunter's case and everybody else's that is a true problem, not necessarily the sentence itself. After all, the law in question, which prohibits individuals suffering from an illegal drug addiction from possessing a firearm, likely violates the Second Amendment. Plus, diversion programs across the country have improved public safety at lower cost to taxpayers than prison alternatives, which is fine. I get it. Sending somebody to prison is for every little thing that's ever done isn't something that's absolutely necessary. I don't think that, he should actually have to actually go to prison for these particular crimes, tax evasion or the gun charges or whatever. I get it. What I do believe should happen is more than just what these are about. I don't care about these. I really don't. Though we're going to cover them in depth, these ones are the little pieces that I really don't care about. The bigger part is the Burisma holdings, the millions of dollars being shipped in and out of Ukraine and put right back into the back pockets of these people that have so much to do with Ukraine. They've had something to do with Ukraine for a long time. But that's clearly not things are shaking out in the practice of DOJ. The President Biden has expressed an ongoing willingness to harshly punish firearms offenses. His DOJ is defending his law in court. And he has signed a law in 2021 to increase maximum penalties from 10 years to 15 years in prison. Apparently, President Biden does not believe offenders should be treated with kid gloves, at least when it's not his kid. Indeed, if Hunter's were a typical case, he would have expected a much more aggressive DOJ response. Mixing illegal drugs and firearms is usually a quick trip to the land of 5 or 7 year mandatory minimum sentences, while initiatives such as Project Safe Neighborhoods have been built around getting offenders combining drugs and weapons off of the streets. When you actually think about the drug and weapons charges that had been, that have been actually created to actually, do such a thing, it's really seriously something to actually think about and go back into Joe Biden's past. Go back into Joe Biden's past and actually go and look at all of those things that had at one point in time been something that Joe Biden created through his seat in the Senate, like drug and crime bills from the 80s and 90s. When he actually created those drug and crime bills, these are the people that he was targeting. These are the people that he was targeting over and over again with those bills. It was 1988, 1994 were drug and crime bills that he had actually created to actually do just this. These mandatory minimum sentences for possession of firearms while combining them with drugs. Those are his bills that he created. And now his son gets to walk away. Gets to walk away from it. Though he actually is the one that actually created most of the stuff. So you really seriously pay attention to what Joe Biden had done in the past and where he's at now. It's really scary to actually believe that this is all okay. What's up, Go Hagen? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. That Hunter will walk away with few consequences, where thousands have instead been left to languish in federal prisons in terrible conditions, paints a picture of two-tiered justice system where an accident of birth can matter more than the facts of the case. We can debate which tier is better for our country or how we ought to respond to those kinds of transgressions. But the legitimacy of the criminal justice system demands that there be only one track that applies fairly to all. So, no, this is not a day of accountability. It is one of power and privilege, securing special benefits while hoping the rest of us are too distracted by the headlines to notice. We shouldn't let this pass without calling it out for what it is and then working to improve it. Very disturbing to actually believe that, that we've actually gone past all of this and we're just going to look past it. It's okay. His last name's Biden. It's okay. It's okay. We'll just allow it to happen. So this is Hunter Biden to plead guilty in federal charges. When you look at this guy, You look at how many hair implants do you think he's attempted to actually do? It really seriously looks horrible. It looks about as bad as his dad. President Joe Biden's son has agreed to plead guilty to federal crimes and deal with the U.S. government. Prosecutors said on June 20th. Hunter Biden, 53, has admitted to intentionally failing to pay federal income tax. U.S. Attorney David Weiss said in a letter to the U.S. court in Delaware, Hunter Biden plans to plead guilty to upcoming hearing to violations of the law that forbids willfully failing to file tax returns or pay taxes. Hunter Biden received more than $1.5 million in taxable income in 2017 and more than $1.5 million more in 2018, according to an indictment. Just pennies, not a lot of money. Just somewhere about $3 million that hadn't been taxed properly. No reason that he should have to sit in prison for any of it. What the hell? Are you kidding me right now? We could actually go to jail for pennies on that dollar and sit for, some up to potentially 8 years, and he's going to walk scot-free. He's going to walk scot-free without an issue. He was required by law to pay more than $100,000 in income tax for his earnings each of those years, but he did willfully fail to pay the tax. The counts are misdemeanors. Each carries up to a year in prison. No hearings have been scheduled as of yet, according to the court documents. It's a misdemeanor now to owe $100,000? I just thought anything over $10,000 was a felony. Now, I don't know if that's the same in every single state. That's what it was like in the state of Minnesota. I really need to brush up on my South Dakota law to actually know for sure if it's the same here. But it was usually, felonies were $10,000, or when it came down, anything over $10,000 was consistent of or to be equal to a felony charge. But we're just going to look at it. It's just a couple misdemeanors, nothing big. Everything potato railed against in his bill, Hunter is guilty of. Yep, that's what I'm saying. That was exactly the stuff that he actually, stood up for throughout those years in the Senate. That's exactly what he stood up for. No hearings have been scheduled as of yet, according to the court docket. Hunter Biden said that in late 2020 that authorities were investigating his tax affairs. He said, "I am confident that a professional and objective review of these matters will demonstrate that I handled my affairs legally and appropriately." I just went to daddy. I went to daddy and said, "Daddy, fix this for me." A subpoena made public in 2022 showed that Vice was compelling JP Morgan Chase Bank to release Hunter Biden's bank records. IRS agents later came forward to allege the investigation wasn't being handled properly. Another charge, separately, Hunter Biden in 2018, knowing that he was an unlawful user of an addicted or controlled substance, did knowingly possess a firearm. That is a Colt Cobra 38 SPL revolver and serial number RA551363. I don't really know why we needed to actually have the serial number on there, but okay. It said firearm having been shipped and transported to interstate commerce is an indictment state. The law in question forbids people convicted of a crime punishable by a prison term of more than a year and who illegally use or are addicted to a controlled substance as defined in the Controlled Substance Act from possessing firearms. I mean, they could actually go ahead and actually say that this is this right here, this sentence right here. the whole paragraph, I suppose. The law in question forbids people convicted of crime punishable by prison term of more than a year or who illegally use or are addicted to controlled substances as defined in the Controlled Substance Act from possessing firearms. From possessing firearms. That right there, that seriously, that's Joe Biden's law. That's Joe Biden's law. That's Joe Biden's name is on that as being the person that actually signed it. Several outlets have reported that Hunter Biden has possessed a gun in 2018, that his then girlfriend, Haley Biden, the widow of Hunter's brother, Beau, threw a gun in the garbage before it was recovered by authorities. Hunter Biden has said that in his autobiography that he was using crack cocaine that year. Crack cocaine. Crack cocaine. We could actually probably go back and we could actually find a clip of Joe Biden actually holding up a crack rock on the Senate floor and actually saying this is more dangerous than its powdered form because of its purity. Because of its purity, it was more dangerous in that you would actually hold a larger sentence to somebody that was actually in possession of crack cocaine as opposed to its powdered component, which in itself is really almost the same thing. It's not really all that much different. The complexion is slightly different, the high is slightly different, and it's actually used slightly different as opposed to being snorted. It would be smoked. If really seriously, there isn't that much of a difference between the two. But Joe Biden actually rallied for it to be different, which should actually hold Hunter Biden to the grounds of that's what you actually charge people with. That's what you wanted to do. You watch your son sit in prison for plenty of years now. Hunter Biden has agreed to enter a pretrial diversion agreement with the charge, according to Vice. Pretrial diversion programs enable defendants to get charges dismissed if they meet certain criteria. The objectives of the programs include preventing future criminal activity and promoting rehabilitation. So it's a gun charge. It's a gun charge. So you'd have to actually take this class to actually learn how to actually control himself in and around an environment that would actually have firearms or potential firearms, and maybe actually do some drug classes, some NA classes or something or whatever, just to say that he is actually been clean, and will continue to not break the law, asshole. Stop breaking the law. The charges carry up to 10 years of prison and a fine of up to $250,000. Christopher Clark, a lawyer representing Hunter Biden, declined to comment. Of course he declined to comment. Why would he want to comment on this? He doesn't want to comment on it. He doesn't want anything to do with that. The charge carries 10 years. 10 years, $250,000. He's worth more than that. He's worth more than that. We actually see it. We've seen the millions and millions of dollars that he made from Burisma, as well as many other companies that he's actually sat on the board for whatever reason. Being being Joe Biden's most intelligent man that he's ever known, you really seriously would want to believe that they would still charge him, maybe not make him do that, but make him pay that. Make him pay for it. They have the fucking money. Christopher Clark, a lawyer representing Hunter Biden, declined to comment. The president and the first lady love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life. Not her son, his, not hers. Sorry, I know that you're married, but technically, yeah, you could be considered mom, but you're not. You're not mom. Biologically, you're not. Sorry. We will have no further comment. Joe Biden has claimed in the past that his son did nothing wrong. Really? He did nothing wrong? He did zero things wrong? I doubt it. I doubt it. We're actually reading the article that actually says that he actually did do something wrong. And he did a lot more than that. We need to actually figure out what all that is and actually bring him up on those charges. I trust him. I have faith in him, the president said to MSNBC in the recent interview. And of course, you can't have an article about Joe Biden Hunter without actually looking at, oh, yes, Donald Trump. Former President Donald Trump, who was recently charged with 37 counts, said that the new information indicates that the justice system is broken. Wow, the corrupt Biden DOJ just cleared up hundreds of years of criminal liability by giving Hunter Biden a mere traffic ticket. Our system is broken, Trump wrote in Truth Social. The Department of Justice didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. Vices appointed by Trump in 2017 and confirmed by the Senate in the following year. He was one of the few U.S. attorneys from the Trump administration to be retained by Joe Biden. Of course. Because Trump, though he had, appointed some good people, though he, potentially was a good judge of character, there were some people that he judged improperly and didn't actually look at their face value. Trump has said in the past that he believed that to make the federal case against him look fair, Hunter Biden would be charged with something small. Republicans decried the announced deal. Biden's DOJ is treating Hunter with kid gloves, giving him a deal that only the president's son could receive. Rep. Kevin Hern out of Oklahoma said in the statement, the deal will not stop our investigation into the Biden crime family, as it shouldn't. As it shouldn't. They should actually still be investigating this crime family for what it is. I heard the charges against Samuel Bankman-Fried were dropped too. Go figure. Go figure. Have something to do with the Democrat? You're okay. Anyone can see Biden's DOJ went easy on Hunter Biden. Darrell Issa, a Republican out of California, said House Republicans have been probing Biden family financial dealings and uncovered bank records that they say show a complex money laundering scheme. The White House has stated that Joe Biden wasn't influenced by the payments made to the then vice president's family members. Just because they've only been probing them for the short bit that they have been, doesn't mean that they're actually, safe from doing the stuff that they've been doing. I can't wait for them to actually bring charges to and Joe Biden and his family in a whole. Chat disconnected. Please wait. What? Why? Why? Hopefully everything's still working. I just had it's actually storming here, and that could actually knock some stuff out. So if I go away for a short bit, I'll be back. I promise. Attorney General Merrick Garland was actually pretty harsh on Hunter Biden. Yeah, sure he was. Cue the outrage from former President Donald Trump and his allies over the just announced Hunter Biden plea deal. Of course, no one really expected Trump and his supporters to ever be satisfied with an outcome of the long-running Hunter Biden investigation that did not result in the conviction of his father. This isn't the investigation that we're actually concerned with. We're not concerned with the smokescreen that they're throwing at us. There's more. There's a lot more that we're actually not seeing, that they just pretend that didn't happen. It did happen. It still happened. Grassley's come forward. Trump's come forward. Several others have come forward and said what they actually want to actually do. It wigged out for a second, chat, but it's back. Okay, good. But the truth of the matter is that Attorney General Merrick Garland did Hunter Biden no favors in the case by leaving the original Trump-appointed prosecutor on the case and approving a plea deal on charges that for anyone else would likely have resulted in criminal charges being brought. DOJ opened an investigation into Hunter Biden some 5 years ago, which is remarkably long time to investigate and prosecute a tax evasion case involving about $1.2 million in a false statement about it being a drug user. The investigation was opened by Trump's Justice Department in 2018 and overseen by original Trump-appointed United States Attorney for Delaware, David Weiss, whom Attorney General Garland left in place despite the fact that the new attorney generals typically ask for resignations of U.S. attorneys appointed to the previous administration. The AG's decision to keep Weiss in place likely was Garland's effort to show the public that no politics would affect the investigation. The immediate reaction by such political leaders, such as House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, making plain that Garland miscalculated his ability to blunt Republican attack on the DOJ. Under the terms of the plea deal, Hunter Biden must plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor counts of failing to pay his taxes in 2017 and 2018, in which he apparently underpaid by $100,000 each year. In 2021, he paid the shortfall. That makes the tax case a bit of an outlier, since prosecutors usually have little appetite for bringing criminal tax cases when the taxpayer has already paid the amount owing. Biden's legal team was no doubt well aware that the probably hoped the payment made, plus the fact that the liability was not that great, would cause the DOJ to decline to bring the criminal charges at all. In exchange for Biden pleading guilty, the prosecutors will seek only probation and no jail time. I get probation. I understand probation. As a young child, young man, actually, causing troubles through my teens, being put on probation for multiple years. There's ways to actually get yourself off of probation in short time frame and actually not ever see a jail cell. It is possible. It really seriously is. With regard to the firearms charges, Biden will receive what is referred to as diversion with diversion from prosecution. That means he completes the conditions of the probation. We've kind of covered this, and like I said, there's going to be some repeat in here because there's plenty of articles that are covering the same thing. Then Biden will not be convicted of having stated in paperwork to buy the gun that he did not use drugs and did not have a drug problem, when in truth he was addicted to crack cocaine at the time. His self-admitted drug addiction likely played a role in the prosecutors allowing him to seek pretrial diversion, as diversion is frequently used as a means of holding drug addicts to accountability while not making them take a felony on their records as the light of the addiction. In fact, it is rare for prosecutors to pursue criminal charges for these kind of false information on a gun ownership application form unless the gun was also used to commit some other crime, such as robbery, to cite one example. Robbery, murder, any other, misfiring of a firearm, or illegal use, unholstered in some states. There's plenty of reasons and ways that we could actually do just that. What is up, Pastor Rapture? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Here, however, there is no evidence beyond he used the gun in any crime. He apparently only had the gun for 2 weeks before his then girlfriend threw it away in a trash dumpster. No, that's dangerous. Just gonna go throw it in a dumpster, else than Some homeless guy goes walking down the street, jumps in the dumpster to get something to eat, sees the gun, picks it up, goes and sells it so that he has the money to his buddy down the street who's actually going to go and commit a crime. Then all of a sudden, boom, oh, oops. Notably absent from the plea deal are any charges arising from Biden's infamous laptop, a potential piece of evidence that might hold a record for worst chain of custody in history. Despite various analyses that indicate some evidence actually came from the laptop, it is hard to imagine any prosecutor wanting to rely on evidence that is already handled by scores of others, including Rudy Giuliani. Oh, and there's a problem of whether any of the data on the laptop actually indicates criminal conduct. To the extent of the laptop and the rest of the GOP's complaints are really about family members of presidents profiting off of their family name. They have a point, but not a criminal case. From FDR's son, Richard Nixon's brother, Jimmy Carter's brother, to Donald Trump's children, the sketch Donald Trump's children. What the hell? The sketchy nature of profiting from a president's family name remains an issue, but so far, not one that can be solved by criminal charges. Well, it's because, Trump's children didn't create any criminal charges. What a bunch of bullshit. As a result of his 5-year-long investigation, is that recovering drug addict who paid his taxes late and lied about using drugs to purchase a firearm will be convicted of tax evasion and be given pretrial diversion for lying for the gun ownership application. It is likely that the other drug addict, who is not the son of the sitting president, would not have been prosecuted for their charges. But AG Merrick Garland, ever sensitive to the accusations of DOJ looking political, kept the original prosecutor in the case and isolate DOJ from accusations of political partnership. They refused to exercise what would easily be considered reasonable prosecutorial discretion in refusing to bring criminal charges for such minor offenses. As usual, Garland's efforts to avoid political backlash are doomed to failure. Frankly, DOJ would have taken just as much criticism if Garland had removed the original Trump-appointed prosecutor and declined to bring any criminal charges. Now the DOJ will simply wait for the inevitable calls for hearings into the plea deal in the likely summoning of the prosecutor in Capitol Hill to face questions. However, the prosecutor, David Weiss, has issued a statement saying that his investigation of Hunter Biden is ongoing. It's possible this could stave off any congressional inquiries since the case is still active, but the prospect of Vice continuing to investigate is disturbing. One of the raises the specter of special counsel John Durham's dead man walking investigation of the Russia probe that took 4 years and produced nearly nothing. Attorney General Garland would be doing the country and taxpayers a big favor if he simply pulled the plug any further investigation into Hunter Biden and simply took the heat for doing so. I don't believe that he should actually just, walk away from it. They need to continue to investigate everything that is and was Hunter Biden and his big guy dad that have squandered so many millions of dollars from the likeness of Ukraine in Burisma. So then conservatives slam DOJ sweetheart plea deal for Hunter Biden, two-tiered justice system. Conservatives blasted the sweetheart plea deal federal prosecutors have given the Hunter Biden, where he will plead guilty on 2 counts of willful failure to pay federal income tax. And like I said, a lot of this is repeat, so it's not that we're going to cover the whole thing over and over again. Wow, the corrupt Biden DOJ just cleared up hundreds of years of criminal liability by giving Hunter Biden a mere traffic ticket. Our system is broken. And it really is. It really is broken. It's been destroyed, and there's nothing that we can actually do to actually change any of that. I'm just kind of skimming through this real quick because like I said, I know a lot of this is repeat. If you're a Republican, Biden's DOJ will throw the book at you and try to put you in prison for 100 years. But if you happen to have the right last name, like Hunter, they will protect you and treat you like with kid gloves. Tom Fitton, president of the watchdog group Judicial Watch, tweeted that the sweetheart plea deal is an in your face show of contempt for the rule of law. He asserted that it avoids prosecutions tied to foreign bribery and Joe. Dr. Sebastian Gorka agreed with the Fitton that it was a sweetheart deal, plea deal from his daddy's DOJ and IRS. And they just kind of, Sebastian Gorka himself, when he actually comes out and he actually says anything, he's usually pretty accurate with his thoughts and his opinions. For him to actually believe that, daddy's DOJ and IRS has actually had a lot to do with the plea deal, of course they did. Of course they did. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy contended the deal as a feigned retreat and reveals they're even more scared than ever of scrutiny for the real crimes. For the real crimes, the millions of dollars that have actually been squandered around out of Ukraine is really something that we need to actually continue to look at. As long as the AG and DOJ are under control of dictatorship, lunatics can commit any crime and remain free. Yep. And that's pretty much what this is actually going through. Whatever is actually saying just that. Conservative social media influencer Rogan O'Hanley, boy, it sure pays to have your daddy in the Oval Office. I bet it does. I bet it does pay to actually have daddy there. Because if daddy wasn't there, what would have actually happened? How far would have they have gone? Because it's political. It's all political that on what they're actually doing. They're actually just kind of brush over it. Now, if anybody else is actually out there that didn't pay their taxes in 2017, 2018, and they're going to be brought up on charges for any of it, they best get the same deal. They best get the same deal. Walk free, maybe sit on probation for just a short bit. Republican candidate for U.S. Senate suggested any other American would receive a harsher punishment. Instead of receiving the punishment any of American would receive, he gets a slap on the wrist. America gets another slap in the face as we see a two-tiered justice system. Senator J.D. Vance, who has endorsed Marino, also asserted the deal signals a disgraceful double standard of the law. And we're going to actually watch the double standard actually come out here within the next few weeks as we start paying attention a little bit more to what actually is going on with Donald Trump in and around everything that they're looking at with him. Senator Tom Cotton shared the same sentiment, tweeting that anyone without a Biden last name engaged in even a fraction of Hunter's misconduct, they'll face real consequences. Journalist Jack Posobiec noted news of the deal comes the same day Trump's trial date has been fast-tracked in the classified documents case. Same day. Go figure. GOP lawmakers like Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Senators Josh Hawley and Rick Scott pointed to what they see as disparities in how the Biden's DOJ handled these cases versus how it is pursuing charges against Trump and leading GOP presidential candidate. So Hunter Biden gets a special plea deal, slap on the wrist, probably won't do a day at a time, while DOJ serves Trump as a spy and tries to put him in prison forever, Holly tweeted. Two standards of justice. To actually, so you can see Rick Scott says something. So Rick Scott says a slap on the wrist for Hunter Biden while the big guy continues to hunt down the top political opponents. Scott wrote in a tweet that doesn't show equal justice. It's a mockery of our legal system by a family that has no respect for laws. we're not going to actually listen to what Marsha Blackburn actually has to say. Like I said, I'm not watching any videos out of this particular bunch, but Marsha Blackburn pretty much feels the same exact way, and really isn't that far off on her thoughts and sentiments towards this particular case. So then here you go. Just to show the two tiers of justice, Kodak was charged with the same crime, just 3 years, and got 3 years. Rapper lawyer rips Hunter's plea deal. Rapper Kodak Black's lawyer, Bradford Cohen, ripped the Department of Justice sweetheart plea deal with Hunter Biden. Cohen said, two tiers of justice. Kodak was charged with the same crime, got over 3 years. Mr. Biden will not serve a day. Feels right. Do FBI agents and federal authorities take cases personally? Tucker Carlson said Donald Trump had an idea. They'll hit Hunter with something small to make their strike on me look fair. Trump wrote that about 2 weeks ago, and it turned out those were the prescient words. This morning, Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to pretty much nothing. Biden pled to 2 misdemeanor tax evasion charges and entered a diversion for the gun charge. That's it. It's like it all never happened. That's exactly what it comes down to. It's like it just never happened. Nothing to see here. Don't worry. Koolfrogg is my favorite conservative news source. Yeah. Thank you, Pastor Raptor. Glad you feel that way. What's up next? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Top of the morning to you. Top of the morning to you. So this one here, I believe this was pretty much the same deal. It really didn't really cover too much more. Here's the Tucker Carlson one. So really gonna actually just go straight to his statements. I believe there was a large statement here. Here it is. Carlson also noted that Trump himself predicted that this would happen and explained how being the POTUS's son comes with an awful lot of perks, including the ability to be let off the hook. Donald Trump had no idea. They'll hit Hunter with something small and make their strike on me look fair. Trump wrote that about 2 weeks ago, and it turned out those were precedent words. This morning, Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to pretty much nothing. Biden pled to 2 misdemeanor tax evasion charges and entered a diversion of federal gun charges. That's it. As far as Merrick Garland's Justice Department is concerned, Hunter Biden is done. There is no pre-dawn raid carried live simultaneously on CNN. There was no perp walk, no handcuffs, no press conferences. Above all, there was no felony. Hunter Biden, who broke federal gun laws, can still carry a gun. It's like it never happened. In fact, the Justice Department just baptized Hunter Biden, a lifetime of sins washed away in an instant. In the meantime, though, the question is, what can we learn from Hunter Biden's plea deal today? First off, the obvious. For the children of the people in charge, there are no penalties. There are only upsides. They're princelings. They can do what they want. You are not, therefore you can't. So don't get any ideas about cheating on your taxes or violating federal gun laws unless you want to celebrate next year's Father's Day through the glass of the visitor's room. The rules definitely apply to you, including rules you don't yet know exist. The rules definitely apply to you, including rules that don't exist. That was Tucker Carlson's statement. So even Tucker Carlson, if those of you that actually believe that Tucker Carlson is actually legitimate and you should have never actually been, removed from Fox, or however you look at him, this statement here in itself really says a lot. It says a whole hell of a lot when it comes down to it. Merrick Garland, the DOJ, and everybody in between needs to actually be found accountable for allowing this to actually be overlooked. And that's exactly what's being done. It's just being overlooked. Wouldn't it be 4 tiers of justice? What a political side backing wants, what the opposition wants, what the law is, and what everyone else would get for doing the same? Sorta. I mean, I see your point, Nix. But at the same time, it's pretty much just looking at, if you're a Democrat, you're going to get one thing. If you're a Republican, you're going to get another. And that's pretty much where they're looking at their 2 tiers. So then, I'm going to refresh that page. It says McCarthy doubles down and Biden family probes after Hunter plea deal. To go along with what the left has to say, this is the Hill. It says Speaker Kevin McCarthy said a plea deal on the tax charges in Hunter Biden, President Biden's son, will not slow down the House Republicans' investigation into the Biden's family business dealings. It continues to show the 2-tier system in America. McCarthy said that Hunter Biden's plea deal, if you are a president's leading political opponent and the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you a prison time, but if you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal. Now, this does nothing to our investigation, McCarthy told reporters on Tuesday morning. It actually should enhance our investigation because the DOJ should not be able to withhold any information. Now saying that there's pending investigation, they should be able to provide House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer with any information that he requires. Hunter Biden agreed to a plea guilty on tax crimes and reached a diversion agreement on the gun charge. McCarthy, kind of throwing wind, per se, at the DOJ for what they've actually, what they hadn't actually done is something in itself. Really, when it comes down to it, do we really believe the rhino? Do we care what the rhino really has to say? So then you got J.D. Vance doubling down and holding Biden's DOJ nominees in the wake of Hunter Biden deal. So, he's going to actually go ahead and he's going to hold up any potential nominees for judges. He's going to hold it back. He's going to hold it back as much as he possibly can. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance on Tuesday doubled down on holding the President Biden's double Department of Justice nominees to the wake of Hunter Biden getting a slap on the wrist. It is revealed Tuesday morning that Biden's son Hunter has pled guilty to 2 tax misdemeanors and 1 charge related to the violation of gun. As Breitbart News reported, Biden will plead guilty to willful failure to pay the federal income tax, most likely in his foreign earnings, and will enter a pretrial diversion program regarding his gun crime, indicating that he will face no jail time. Any other American would have a book thrown at them. That's the president's son gets a slap on the wrist. This is an exhibit 1402 for why I'm holding Biden's DOJ nominees. We have a 2-tiered justice system in our country. It's a disgrace. So many standing up to the likeness of Joe Biden and his DOJ, but yet, they're going to continue to actually push it the way they want it and actually, allow him as Hunter Biden to just walk free. Vance defended that position last week during his appearance in the Ingram angle as well, deeming Biden's DOJ political appointees as nothing more than foot soldiers to further politicize the department. The political appointees in the Department of Justice, the way that they look at them is foot soldiers is turning the DOJ into a political activism instead of actively doing the job enforcing the law. Why should we be giving Joe Biden more foot soldiers than he's using when they attack his political opponents and conservatives all across the country? It's insane. Former President Donald Trump will remain the target of the Biden administration, predicted the feds would hit Hunter with something small to make their continued witch hunt against him look fair. It's all about election interference. They don't want to run against me, Trump wrote in a part of a June 6th explaining that they are using the DOJ and FBI against me to rig the 2024. They'll hit Hunter with something small to make their strike on me look fair. Nothing about these fascists is fair or honest. Fight. Vance also touted his position in describing the latest indictment against Trump as a moral and constitutional joke, and concluding that Biden is using the justice system to preemptively steal just that. So when it comes down to it, projecting, the potential of, something happening in 2024 that we all know didn't happen in 2020, as we have the most legitimate president ever with the most votes, then there's nothing we can do about it. So from just the news, this is all just today. The House and Ways and Means Committee took final steps Tuesday to release the public as early as this week in testimony evidence from an IRS whistleblower who alleges the Justice Department gave favorable treatment to Hunter Biden and engaged in political interference in the criminal tax case against the first son. Committee Chairman Jason Smith scheduled an executive session at 8 a.m. Thursday, where lawmakers are expected to vote on to free the whistleblower evidence and testimony of the IRS supervisory criminal agent Gary Shapley and the 6103 privacy requirements that normally shield Americans' tax information from public disclosure. The development came just hours after U.S. Attorney David Weiss in Delaware announced the court filing that Hunter Biden had struck a deal and plead guilty on the 2 misdemeanor charges of willfully failing to pay taxes and enter probation, blah, 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 blah. Eliminated a third charge, a felony, accusing him of lying on a gun application. The vote by the GOP-led committee will allow the evidence Shapley provided in 6 hours of testimony last month, as well as 23 pages of evidence from Hunter Biden tax probe to be released to the public. Sources familiar with Shapley's testimony told Just the News that he turned over 7 documents holding 23 pages that summarized the evidence and predicate for the original investigation into the taxes and overseas finance of President Joe Biden's son. The memos also summarized multiple instances dating to 2020 in which DOJ officials thwarted, hampered, and interfered with the frontline career of investigators' efforts, ranging from blocking certain tactics to allowing tolling agreements to expire that extended the statute of limitations on certain alleged offenses. Shapley described the IRS and FBI agents as being concerned by the interference of sources said. So, when it comes down to it, this guy, the development came just hours after the U.S. Attorney. Where's the development again? Where is this? 8 a.m. Executive session at 8 a.m. on Thursday, where lawmakers are expected to vote on free whistleblower evidence and testimony of IRS supervisory criminal agent Gary Shapley from 6103 privacy requirements that normally shield Americans' tax information from public disclosure. So there's going to be more and more news that's going to be produced from this particular case over and over again. T-Rex says, "LOL, I fell asleep." Of course you did. It's late. It's late at night. I get it. I understand. It's all right. But it seems as now you're awake again. Are you awake for the night, or are you just gonna go back to bed? Because I'm down for either one of those, brother. Because you're one of those that has driving around this country with a loaded uh, truck, which in my mind is just as dangerous as anything. I could actually see you. I don't want you to actually hurt yourself. I want you to actually be safe and okay. Um. So yesterday, I'm gonna actually hit this add a stream marker because I always forget to do that. I always forget to do that. So now there's a stream marker to actually split these up a little bit. In between what had happened, I'd covered yesterday night. Those of you that remember, the missing submersible, that's actually been that actually has plenty of. I'm going to actually do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to actually create a second tab section here quick. The submersible in itself is a very interesting story to go along with all a bunch of this here. So it says a missing Titanic submarine may have been using a cheap video game controller. Of course it was. Of course it was. There's so many things that actually they control with just this. Something similar to a cheap video game controller. Since this weekend, the internet has focused on the fate of Titan, a private 5-passenger submarine that went missing while a tourist expedition on the wreckage of the Titanic. As rescuers race to find the missing sub, questions have emerged about the safety of the sub's construction. The vehicle, designed to travel down 12,500 feet, is the resting place of the Titanic, can only be opened from the outside. A lawsuit was filed in 2018 over the safety of the hull. One of the standout details is that, according to the photos and the videos of the submarine from the previous expeditions, it's piloted using a video game controller. The internet, being the internet, found out that the controller in question in many of the photos and videos was the Logitech GF710. What submersible had all 7 of its fail-safes fail all at once, and the military uses the video game controllers for many of their drones? It makes it easier for millennials to operate. Of course it does. Of course it does. When a company terminal finished upgrade and bring back sleep when the show concludes, upgrade to what we call a process of being finished in the miles of training, doing the final classes, and we're funky given our truck and sent out on the road. Awesome. Aliens got them. Maybe that could be something that we actually kind of overlook. Yes, maybe it's the aliens. The aliens went and abducted this submersible, and as you can see, slightly updated whatever the controller to actually make it workable for this particular issue, give it a little bit more of a control per se. There are a couple of very important bits of context to note right away. One is that we can't be certain whether the expedition that went missing is using the controller or another one. The Katuku pointed out that the few different controllers have been in photos of the submarine. Another is that the controller first came out in 2010 and cost about $30. I mean, I don't really care how much the controller actually costs, as long as it's actually going to do the job that it needed to, and it was intended to do. When it comes down to it, it seems as though there's something that went wrong, and we haven't quite figured out what it is. Uh, it's even a good controller for gaming, let alone steering a submarine at the at crushing ocean depths. With more than 4,000 customer reviews on Amazon, has a rating of 4.2 of 5. That's an actually good controller. Yeah, Logitech F710. Go hit it up and grab yourself a great way to control any of your games or game systems. It really seriously compatible with Windows 10. Yes, there you go. I like I said, I really don't care about the controller or what the controller was about or what it looked like, how much it costs, as long as it was actually doing the job that was necessary for it to do. So then, this here you can see this was actually the last update. I'm going to actually hit this refresh button here real quick. It was last updated at just before 8 o'clock tonight. Saying that there's estimates only about 41 hours of oxygen supply left. So I mean, he still has another day or so before it would actually uh, potentially be an issue. But that was 8 o'clock. Had to 40 hours, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 4 hours ago. So you're down into the 30s. So within the next day, they need to actually find this. Otherwise, they could potentially be looking at whoever's ever in this particular submarine, which I believe I do have the names of some of those people that were actually in there. This is even if Titan's cramped confines a bathroom with some privacy is featured in the submersible. Ocean Gate CEO Stockton Rush told the German out in 2019 that the bathroom aboard is bigger than many private jets. You can't, you can put a little curtain, and you have some privacy. Most of our clients and I think even the researchers say that a huge thing because nobody really looks forward to the idea of sitting next to two strangers shoulder to shoulder while you go to the bathroom. Rush said passengers always ask where they can go to relieve themselves on the submersible because the dives are more than 10 hours long. Because of the way you go to the bathroom and any other sub is they give you a cup and a skirt that you wrap around your waist. Then while you're 2 inches away from your fellow travelers, you're supposed to, go to the bathroom. People would strave themselves the day before. It's a big fear. But because the sub is carbon fiber, we have so much space, we actually have a bathroom that is bigger than most private jets. So then 9 hours ago, this is industry leaders voiced concern of the 2018 about Ocean Gate's Titanic expedition. Submersible industry leaders warned of possible catastrophic results with Ocean Gate's experimental approach to sea exploration, including the Titanic expedition, in a letter penned in 2018. The Marine Technology Society expressed unanimous concern over the development of the Titan and the planned Titanic expedition, according to the letter obtained by the New York Times that was sent to Ocean Gate on March 27, 2018. Our apprehension is the current experimental approach adopted by Ocean Gate could result in the negative outcomes for the miners of catastrophic that would have serious consequences for everyone in the industry. This is industry leaders also advise that the company should have a design tested in front of the MTS or another third party to ensure that the vessel's safety. The letter was sent to Ocean Gate CEO Stockton Rush by the Manned Underwater Vehicles Committee of the Marine Technology Society, and the Times reported. Will Conan, the chair of the committee, told the Times Tuesday that Rush called him after the letter was sent. Regulations were slowing innovation. So it says, I was the Titanic sub passenger. The waiver said death 3 times. I'm going to actually go ahead and believe, yeah, this one here. When this word appears 3 times in the Titanic submersible waiver, maybe you shouldn't go. The search and rescue operations for the lost Ocean Gate submersible that took 5 men down to visit the Titanic wreck remains ongoing, but the life support systems are running out. The Seacraft is reported missing Sunday. The Titan is the only 5-man submarine in the world that can make the 12,500-foot journey to the wreck. It's a it's a rich man's game, since the cost to participate is this vacation expedition is prohibitive to most people. The price is about $250,000 per head. There are concerns that the Titan craft has become stuck in the wreckage. There's no way to contact the passengers or crew. Hamish Harden, a British billionaire among the missing, texted a friend about the weather conditions before he vanished underneath the ocean. Hamish Harden. Hamish Harden, a British billionaire. One person who partook in the adventure and survived was Mike Reese, a producer and writer of The Simpsons. He recollected how the waiver mentioned death 3 times in the first page. He knew this was very dangerous. Reese's wife, Denise, told the Post on Tuesday, even in the most dire situations, he has a joke. Reese returned safely, but now the carbon fiber submersible is missing. On board are OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, Paul Henry Nargile, a marine archaeologist who has made dozens of dives on the site, British billionaire explorer Hamish Harding, and British Pakistani father Shahzada Dawood and his son Solomon, scions of the business dynasty. So British Pakistani father is British billionaire Hamish Harding. These people in themselves would really actually kind of, you'd think would actually draw more concern than anything, as they would actually be like, oh, wait a minute here. These are very well known British slash billionaires that have actually gone missing in this lovely ocean. Catastrophic failure of the hull means that oxygen supply numbers are meaningless. Thinking about it myself, whatever. Why is everyone focused on the controller? I don't know, Nix. I really seriously don't know. It really confuses me to actually, believe that's a thing that they're actually looking at, that they're concerned with is the controls. That's why I said I really don't care what it's controlled by. I don't care if it's controlled by a $30 device or a $10 device. When it comes down to it, as long as it's doing the job it needs to do, and it didn't get broke in the process. Pay your money and take your chances. Yes. They flew from home to New York to St. John's, Newfoundland, where then set sail on the board of the MV Polar Prince, steaming south for 400 miles. There was plenty of time to contemplate the dangers of such a precarious trip to the bottom of the ocean. Death is always lurking. It's always in the back of your mind, Reese 63 told the Post. Before you even get on the boat, there's a long waiver that mentions death 3 times on the page 1. The Polar Prince stopped roughly above the Titanic's wreckage, where it was sat since April 15th, 1912. Seen by only a few hundred people, more people have been in space than have set eyes on it. It is a very tiny vessel in a very big ocean, but he said it is built to go where no other vessel to go. So if it's stuck at the bottom of the ocean, I can't foresee a way out. It says, yeah, when the ominous words are used frequently in a waiver, it's probably best not to go at all. Such a search continues. More journalists who have had the privilege of descending on the wreck have come forward to describe how dangerous it is. Former ABC science editor Dr. Michael Gillian nearly died in 2000, reporting that the Titanic, when the propellers of the submersible got stuck on the wreck. So, it's been stuck once before. This isn't something that's new. It happens. It is really seriously kind of concerning to me to actually think that they're okay with the construction of this particular uh, submersible, and that everything can just everybody that you sign the waiver so that they're not liable for your life. 6 months ago, CBS News reporter David Pogue also had the lengthy segment in Ocean Gate, and that the craft they use for these trips, he zeroed in on how the craft is like a Frankenstein monster with the ballast made of pipes. You'd see the construction sites. He also highlighted another disconcerting passage in the waiver. It's missing. As documented by the CBS Sunday Morning Report, journalist David Pogue joined OceanGate in an expedition of the North Atlantic, where the OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush was planning to take a group of Titanic enthusiasts on the Titan submersible to visit the site of the sunken ship, which rests 2.4 miles below the sea. The report showed Pogue reading off the forms he had assigned before taking the expedition. It was not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, motion trauma, or death. He read it aloud before adding, "Where do I sign?" I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised. Pogue noted in the report. The report cut to Rush explaining that they use off-the-shelf components and lights from the camping world. The sub also only had one button because it should be like an elevator and shouldn't take a lot of skill. We run the whole thing while the game with this game controller, Rush said, pulling out what looked like a video game console remote. When Pogue mentioned that the elements of the Titan seemed jerry-rigged, Rush responded, "I don't know if I'd use that description of it, but there's certain things that you want to be buttoned down. So the pressure vessel is not MacGyvered at all, because that's where we work. With Boeing and NASA and the University of Washington, everything else can fail. Your thrusters can go, your lights can go, and you're still going to be safe." Maybe, but we don't know. We don't know how safe they really are. To build aboard a gyro sensor and chipsets needed for a controller, you can get them around one of not less than $1. Battery, add dual charge, and controller. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is I don't care what it is or how much it really costs. When it comes down to it, as long as it's doing the job that it needs to do, and it's going to bring people in and around where they want them and back safely, I'm fine with it. I really don't care. And I don't think it's the controller that's the issue. Apparently, there has to be something else that's actually happened. And maybe they need to actually send something else down and around that area to check it out to see if they're actually stuck somewhere, can be actually, drug out some way, shape, or form, or at least something. I really don't know. At least find them so that we can actually say that they're deceased. Um, you pretty much pay for the casing, brand. Yes, exactly. Because it says Logitech on it, you're going to pay, up to that $30. So it says today, at least 10,000 square miles has been searched for the missing submersible, and nothing has been found. Time is running out. Which I've seen and heard a couple different times now that there's 40 hours of air left in it really, to me, it doesn't make any sense on why they actually projected that to have, that much air left in it or whatever. Because when you actually think about it, you get to a certain spot and they say that there's only and they get stuck. People start panicking. Once you start panicking, you exert more, you know, energy, which causes you to breathe harder and use up more oxygen. So, as long as everybody's staying calm, they could be fine. If they're not staying calm, I don't really see. I mean, seriously, if I was in there, I probably wouldn't even sign it to go down. I wouldn't be like, nah, I'd be like, nah, I don't want to go. I don't care. The Titanic's no interest to me. I really don't want to actually, the claustrophobia is too much for me. I would have, gone nuts in this particular small little outfit. I really wanted the Ocean Gate Expedition's Titan submarine that vanished in the Sunday in the North Atlantic. Well, in the expedition to visit the wreckage of RMS Titanic has around 40 hours of air left. Rear Admiral John Mauger, the U.S. Coast Guard, said the search operations is underway in the area about the size of Connecticut, about 900 miles off the coast of Cape Cod at the depths of about 13,000 feet. It is a challenge to conduct a search that remote area, but we are deploying all available assets to ensure that we can locate the craft and rescue the people on board. A day before the Ocean Gate Expedition's operated sub was launched, billionaire explorer Hamish Harding sent his friend, retired NASA astronaut Colonel Terry Virts, an update on his trip. Hey, we're headed out tomorrow. It looks good. The weather's been bad, so they've been waiting for this, Harding said via text message. He understood the risks for sure. There's no doubt about that, Vert said. He went down to the deepest part of the ocean, set a few world records for the Mariana Trench, and we talked quite a bit about the risks of the different things that they were going to be able to do. So he was very excited about it, he added. Harding said earlier in Instagram, I'm proud to finally announce that I joined Ocean Gate Exped for the RMS Titanic mission as a mission specialist on the sub going down to the Titanic. Due to the worst winter in Newfoundland in 40 years, this mission is likely to be the first of only manned mission to the Titanic in 2023. A weather window it just opened up, and we're going to attempt to dive tomorrow. We started steaming from St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, yesterday, and are planning to start dive operations around 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Until then, we have a lot of preparations and briefings to do. The team on the sub has a couple of legendary explorers, some of which have been over 30 dives to the RMS Titanic since the 1980s, including PH Nargalet. Two other passengers have been identified. Shazwada Dawood, 48, one of Pakistan's wealthiest men, who's worth about $340 million, and his son Solomon Dawood, 19. The Dawood family wrote in a statement, before I read the statement here, what? One of the wealthiest Pakistanis on the planet with $340 million and his son are on this boat, as well as his other businessmen. It really seriously kind of, I get it. It costs a lot of money to be able to actually go on such a thing. It costs so much per head. So you'd have to actually have the money to be able to do such a thing. It kind of almost, conspiracy hat on makes you kind of wonder, are there reasons that they just so happen to get this particular boat stuck? And I'm, like I said, conspiracy hat on. Would it be easier to find something on the surface of the moon? Maybe, maybe because they say that we haven't searched everything here on our own planet. So, uh, the Daywood family wrote in a statement, "We're very grateful for the concern being shown for our colleagues and friends and would like to request everyone to pray for their safety while granting the family privacy at this time. The family is well looked after and are praying for Allah uh, for the safe return of the family members." Shazada Daywood is the vice chairman of Engro Corporation, one of the largest conglomerates in Pakistan. Engro. Engro, huh? What's Engro about? Engro Polymer Chemicals Limited, a 56% owned subsidiary of Engro, is the only fully integrated chlorovinyl chemical complex in Pakistan. Chlorovinyl. Isn't that something? We've heard about these chemicals over and over again so many times when it comes to missing things or I'm sorry, with trains, derailed trains. Isn't that something? Hmm. Search for missing submersible highlights ongoing fascination with the Titanic. The ongoing search for the missing deep sea vessel that was viewing the wreckage on the doomed ocean liner RMS Titanic has grabbed the public's attention and renewed the fascination with the tragic shipwreck. It's not about the shipwreck. I don't think anybody really cares about the shipwreck in itself. I think it's more about this particular submersible. Submersible vessel operated by OceanGate Expeditions reportedly has 5 people on board. The 21-foot craft began to descend in North Atlantic on Sunday, but lost contact with the surface less than 2 hours later. OceanGate Expeditions said that the statement late on Monday that for some time we have been unable to establish communications with one of our submersibles exploration vehicles, which is currently visiting the wreck site of the Titanic. The company uses a submersible named Titan for its dive in the wreck. It was seats priced at about $250,000 a piece. The loss of the vessel near the same time of the all this is pretty much a repeat, over and over repeat. They kind of go into the Titanic in itself. The sinking of the Titanic remains the most famous maritime disaster in history. It's because everybody knows about it because of some stupid ass movie. Just saying. Just saying. So you can see, the ridiculousness of every newspaper in the world is actually, they're like, oh, look, this is what the Titanic looked like. Look at all the intricacies and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. So, with all of that, we're going to actually move on from this to some other stuff. I do have a couple different articles to try lightening the mood just a little bit. We'll see if we can actually do that. Uh, not that they're all super lightning, really not. I was being sarcastic on that. So then, breaking disgraced former CNN producer sentenced to 19 years for child crimes. What really? These kind of, crimes? John Griffin, 45, confessed to coercing a woman online into bringing her 9-year-old daughter to Ludlow, Vermont for illicit acts. CNN, yet one more time, has actually gone ahead and actually, done something, hired somebody that is just as disgusting as everybody else that they've ever hired. and it's so sad to actually make the to see that anybody would actually feel that it's okay to do such a thing, but yet interesting in itself that they've actually charged this man. Former CNN producer John Griffin has been sentenced to 19 years in prison on Tuesday for committing child crimes in Vermont. John Griffin, 45, confessed to coercing a woman online into bringing her 9-year-old daughter to Ludlow, Vermont for illicit acts, according to Breaking 911. The U.S. Attorney's Office in District of Vermont charged Griffin with 3 counts of using a facility of interstate commerce to attempt to entice minors to engage in unlawful activity in 2021. However, Griffin entered into a plea agreement in December, and the government dropped 2 additional charges of enticing a minor after he confessed his crimes. The criminal complaint filed in the state of Nevada against the mother accused of pimping her 9-year-old daughter to CNN's John Griffin revealed that authorities arrested the mother in August 2020 and seized Griffin's devices the following month. This means the law enforcement allegedly knew that Griffin's abuse for more than a year before his arrest. According to court documents, federal investigators seized computer storage media devices, phones, cameras, micro SD cards, images, and video from Griffin on September 2nd, 2020. The indictment alleged that Griffin lured the mother and underage daughter to his home and proposes of certain types of abuse in July 2020. From April to July 2020, Griffin used online messaging systems such as Kik and Google Hangouts to reach out to the parents of underage daughters. Griffin is also alleged to have attempted to entice 2 other children over the internet to engage in such activity. They tried to engage a mother and her 14-year-old daughter in a virtual training session where he would instruct them to take off of their clothes and touch each other per his wishes. Griffin also was said to have attempted to luring another mother and her 16-year-old daughter to take a little mother-daughter trip to his Vermont properties so that he could engage in training with the teen. Griffin was producer of CNN's senior political analyst John Avlon before he was arrested in the FBI in December 2021 following charges filed by a federal grand jury in Vermont. Sick fuck. Disgusting. It's good to see that somebody's actually finally getting charged with this type of crime. There's been so many that have actually gotten away with it, Epstein, that over and over again just get overlooked. If there was anybody else that was actually in and around this guy, maybe they should also be looked at and brought up on charges of their own. Like I said, there's some really strange shit going on right now. After 29 years on death row, Barry Jones was dumped into the bus station, but he was finally free. Why is he free? This is the kind of person that should enjoy working over with a bat. This is what unchecked grooming looks like. Yep, exactly. That guy was actually charged, though, and he is actually given the 19 years. And I agree. 19 years only, it's not enough. It's not enough because this young lady has to actually deal with it for the rest of her life. So then, after 29 years on death row, Barry Jones is dumped into the bus station, but he is finally free. Barry Jones rarely dared to imagine his release from death row. Sometimes when he was feeling low, his paralegal, whom he called Miss Jennifer, tried to buoy his spirits by promising that one day his legal team would drive up on the habeas van to the desert prison of Florence, Arizona, honking and celebrating, ready to take him home. It never going to be like that, of course, but neither could they have predicted where Jones would find himself on June 15th. In his first moments of freedom after 29 years alone in the Del Taco, uh, near alone at a Del Taco near the bus station, being held or being told that he could not use the phone. The previous 24 hours had gone mostly according to plan. He had spent Wednesday giving away most of his things to friends and neighbors on death row. The next morning, about 4:30 a.m., Jones ate some instant oatmeal for breakfast and prepared to leave his cell for the last time. He boarded a van for a ride down to Tucson, in the sprawling prison complex fading from view behind him. By 9:30, he had arrived in Pima County Superior Court, where a judge would sanction his release. At a hearing later that morning, Jones had hoped to walk out of there, and then instead he was driven around by officers with the Arizona Department of Corrections who didn't seem to know what to do with him. They eventually arrived at a probation office where he was finally uncuffed and given a change of clothes. Then they dumped him in the Greyhound station downtown. With no money, no cell phone, no experience navigating the city in decades, Jones looked for a payphone to make a collect call but found none. Even at the bus station, this is a bus station. He later said, with disbelief, "Wow." So he started walking toward the one downtown address he knew, the office of the Arizona Federal Public Defender. In blue t-shirt, dark jeans, and white sneakers, Jones made his way west. He carried a trash bag with a few belongings and an envelope with his release documents inside. It was typically bright, hot Arizona day, but he was struck by how green Tucson looked compared to Florence, where there's nothing but brown desert as far as the eye could see. This ain't so bad. He thought if he didn't find anyone in the office, he could try to find his son's house. He could even sleep under a bridge if he had to. What mattered was that he was no longer in prison. I can do whatever I want. What Jones didn't know was that people were frantically looking for him. His daughter, Brandy, had gone with her family to Pima County Jail, where she had originally been told Jones had been held until his paperwork cleared. At the federal defender's office, Jones' longtime attorney, Carrie Sandman, grew increasingly agitated and made calls and sent emails looking for his client. When Sandman finally got word that Jones had left the bus station, retired investigator Andrew Sowards rushed out to pick him up. But when he got there, Jones was gone. A search party ensued. Members of the legal team and staff from Arizona Justice Project split up to look for Jones. Finally, around 2 p.m., a voice came through the speakerphone at the office. "We found him." Jones was just a block away. He had walked more than a mile. A few minutes later, Jones came through the door, sweaty, smiling, and wearing a "can you believe this" expression. Jennifer Snyder, the paralegal, gave him a T-shirt she had been saving for that day. It read "Freebird." The first wave of family filed to the offices a little while later. In a large conference room with panoramic windows, Jones reunited with his kids, Brandy, Andrew, and James, along with their children and extended relatives, some of whom were meeting for the first time. His niece recounted the rush to drive to Tucson earlier that day. "I did 80 and 90 all the way down," she said. "Jones didn't miss a beat. I don't want to hear nothing about breaking the law." Before long, the stress from earlier had melted away. Sowards, one of the Jones' biggest supporters, was amazed that he had watched Jones joke and laugh surrounded by people. Jones had never liked crowds in prison. Sowards was nervous he might feel overwhelmed, but it was the exact opposite. He said he saw a side of Jones that was lost in the decades spent in death row. Jones had been a social guy for the wrongful conviction. He loves people and loves these people in particular. I think he's always wanted to be a friendly guy, and he was way back then. People repeatedly asked Jones what he wanted to eat, but he didn't have an answer. Somehow he wasn't hungry. But he did say he would like to grill burgers that weekend. There was a park he would like to go back in the day. They could have a cookout for Father's Day. Brandy said it said it would be hot. Maybe they could spend something or plan something indoors, but Jones said he'd rather be outside. I've spent enough time inside. Uh, this particular gentleman that actually sat in death row for so long, for over 30 years, really seriously, um, it's something to actually understand that, this justice system that we live under can be very dangerous and disturbing in itself, and it could be holding the wrong people for any wrong reason whatsoever. It says innocence isn't enough. Jones releases the culmination of a harrowing saga that started almost 30 years earlier after being sentenced to death in 1995 for a crime he swore he didn't commit. Jones thought his nightmare might be ending in 2018 when a federal judge overturned his conviction. Instead, his case became an emblem of Arizona's dysfunctional death penalty. The U.S. Supreme Court's radical rightward shift and the cruelty of the legal system that prioritizes finality over fairness, even if it means executing an innocent person. Jones was sentenced to death for raping and murder of his girlfriend's 4-year-old daughter, Rachel Gray. The child had died from a sharp blow to her abdomen, which led to a fatal case of peritonitis. The Pima County Sheriff's Department singled out Jones as the sole suspect before an autopsy had even identified Rachel's cause of death. Prosecutors based their case on a narrow window of time during which Jones had been seen with Rachel before she died. But no one investigated the medical evidence, not the lead detective, Sonia Pasquera, and not Jones's own court-appointed attorneys, who left the state's theory unchallenged at trial. It was only when Jones' federal defenders took his case years later that they discovered the state's timeline was medically impossible. The odds of Barry Jones getting his evidence into the courtroom were slim. Ideally, Jones' state post-conviction lawyer would have challenged the trial lawyer's failure to investigate the medical evidence, arguing that Jones received an ineffective assistance of counsel, a violation of the Sixth Amendment rights. Instead, his state post-conviction attorney compounded the trial lawyer's mistakes. Under the burdensome rules dictating federal habeas appeals, if a defendant failed to challenge the trial lawyer's performance in the state court, they would be barred from doing so in federal court. But in 2012, the Supreme Court ruling in Martinez versus Ryan carved out a rare path of relief for people like Jones. If the failure to bring such a claim was done to the post-conviction attorney's own ineffectiveness, the petitioner should have another shot at relief. The ruling got Jones back into federal court. In 2017, U.S. District Judge Timothy Burgess presided over a 7-day evidentiary hearing in Tucson, where Sandman and his colleagues presented evidence that had never made it to trial. The testimony dismantled the state's case against Jones, revealing not only the failings of the attorneys, but also law enforcement officials' rush to judgment. Burgess seemed to be disturbed by Pasquera, who conceded that she never considered other suspects apart from Jones, and he seemed especially fed up with the former Pima County medical examiner John Howard, whose testimony was critical to sending Jones to death row. Howard was previously estimated that Rachel's abdomen injury was most consistent with occurring 24 hours or more before she died. But at Jones' trial, he shortened the time frame to just 12 hours, which neatly fit the state's theory of the crime. In 2018, Burgess vacated Jones' conviction. If not for the failures of the trial attorneys, the judge wrote jurors likely would not have convicted him of any of the crimes in which he was charged and previously convicted. Burgess ordered the state to retry Jones for real or release him. Instead, Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich appealed first to the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which upheld the core of Burgess's findings, and then to U.S. Supreme Court. The state's lawyers insisted that under the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act, Jones would never have been allowed to present the evidence that persuaded Burgess to vacate his conviction. The argument seemed far-fetched. It would mean gutting the Supreme Court's own ruling of Martinez v. Ryan, but at dismay of Jones' legal team, the court took the case. During the oral agreement, the Attorney General's office said that it didn't matter if the evidence showed Jones was not responsible for the crime that sent him to death row. Innocence isn't enough. The state lawyers Brunwald Roysden III said, in May 2022, the justices agreed, reinstating Jones' death sentence and destroying a lifeline for incarcerated people whose lawyers failed them at trial. I'm not going to actually continue with the article or whatever. When it comes down to it, this guy had actually been charged with something that he shouldn't have been charged with. They threw evidence at him and lied about it over and over again to actually make it be that he would actually sit in prison for 29 years for something he did not do. And not only just in prison, but actually sitting in death row. To actually be put on death row, which, they could have actually executed him at any point in time in the last 29 years if they so decided to. It was dangerous to actually make you realize that the court systems that we all enjoy so much suck to the point where they've actually done bad things to good people. Hello, Loki. How you doing, dear? Good to see you. So, kind of move on here. So this guy, we just covered this guy yesterday at the very end of the show or whatever. Where this is the guy that actually is in the state of Minnesota that went ahead and plowed into a car filled with 5 women. It's the son of expelled ex-Minnesota state representative who was arrested and charged in crashing his vehicle into 5 Somali women inside, killing them all in Minneapolis. The man who had previously been convicted of a hit and run in California. The video of horrifying incident shows Derek John Thompson, 27, plowing into the car. Now we watched this video. It hits this car very, very fast, and it's a very, very disturbing scene. When you actually look at it, he plows right into it at very, very high speed. It's such a high speed. Now, here's the thing, and this is the reason that I bring it up again, is what it actually comes down to. It says Thompson was a previous criminal record, which includes a 2018 hit and run incident that took place in California. The woman involved in the incident was in a coma for several weeks. As a result, he was given an 8-year sentence. The vehicle Thompson was driving at the time of the incident was carrying 17 pounds of marijuana and over $20,000 worth of cash. Now Thompson is suspected of killing 5 women in Minneapolis after he was trying to get away from a police officer. The Daily Mail reported that when the Santa Barbara County District Attorney was questioned about why Thompson was let out of prison, they did not provide a straight answer. They said that the state provides a wide latitude of award additional custody credits as well as early parole opportunities. A representative of the Santa Barbara District Attorney's Office said, "This is certainly a terrible, heart wrenching story, and our hearts go out to the families of the 5 young women who lost their lives." They continued, Mr. Thompson received 577 days credit for his time he spent in custody pending disposition. At the time of sentencing, based on the fact that he was sentenced to a violent felony statutorily, the defendant would have been required to serve 85% of the time, meaning that it would have had close to 5.5 years left to serve from the time of sentencing. 5.5 years off of 9-year sentence? Interesting. Thompson's father, John Thompson, was expelled from Minnesota Democratic Farm Labor Party in September 2021 for lying about being racially profiled by police officer over the previous problem with the law. This included a domestic violence accusation. He was officially unseated in November of 2022. Why was he actually running from the cops? Was he doing this stuff again? Carrying, selling, possessing large amounts? Now, I'm not opposed to use of marijuana. I'm really not. I'd actually, in some instances, say that it might be something that would actually be preferred and maybe actually help people in the long run. For whatever reason, this young man getting out of his 8-year sentence 5.5 years early to only go ahead and commit another crime of actually killing 5 women at a high speed in the state of Minnesota, for as far as I'm concerned, can see, never see the light of day ever again. Bury him under the jail for all I care. Very, very disturbing in itself. And apparently Daddy wasn't so much of a perfect person either. £17 would supply the 2 of us for a year or longer. Probably. Probably. What's up, tranny fluid? Good to see you. Yep, you give power to the people and you make sure that they're unaccountable and expect them to not become tyrants. Interesting thought. Kind of keep on going here. So it says 4 dead after a fire in e-bike shop spreads to the apartments in New York City. I'm just like, what the hell? Okay, great. What happened? Oh, let's read. It says a fire at the New York City e-bike shop quickly spread to upper floor apartments and killed 4 people early Tuesday in the latest deadly blaze linked to exploding lithium-ion batteries. We should definitely make all cars electric and have lithium-ion batteries that are harder to put out. Very dangerous. We should definitely do that. We should definitely implement that across the board and make it a thing that everybody must have, electric vehicles over and over again. This, the dangers of lithium ion batteries is something. Years ago, I was a manager of a Radio Shack before they actually went under, and would have people actually come in with their phones to get them replaced on a regular basis. The interesting on that is you would actually have people come in with their phones all bulged or whatever, and it was the battery that was inside of it that was, that had gotten wet, and it had actually gotten to the point where it was almost ready to explode. Very, very large. We'd actually take these lithium ion batteries out of the phones and we would take them out to the back, immediately take them outside and throw them in a dumpster. Uh, or we were supposed to anyway. We would actually take them and we'd throw them out back on the ground because there'd be nobody back there. It was just the back of a building. We would actually, throw them on the ground and throw rocks at them until they would actually explode. Very, very dangerous, but so much fun to watch them explode once they actually hit that point where they just those things just go, and it seriously light itself on fire. You'd have this nice little fire that would be almost impossible to put out. We had a little metal bucket that would actually go and would flip over the top of it so that it would actually eventually smolder itself out. Usually didn't touch the bucket for a day or two after doing such a thing because you just knew better. Lithium ion batteries are very dangerous and very horrible. And now we see an e-bike shop actually go and kill people uh, from exploding lithium ion batteries. The fire reported shortly after midnight happened at a shop and was cited last summer for safety violations related to the storage and charging of batteries, officials said. The pile of burned bikes, scooters, and other debris lay on the sidewalk outside the shop. HQ e-bike repair, which was one of the ground floor of the 6-story building in Manhattan's Chinatown neighborhood. As far this year, there have been more like 100 fires and 13 deaths linked to battery explosions in the city, said Fire Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh. There's a very large number of both batteries in e-bikes, Kavanaugh said at the morning news conference. This location is known to the fire department. We have written violations at this location before, and we would conduct enforcement at the location. And we have conducted enforcement at this location before. 2 men and 2 women died in the Tuesday's fire. 2 other women were hospitalized in critical condition, officials said. A firefighter suffered minor injuries. Kavanaugh said it was very clear that the fire is caused by lithium ion batteries, which can overheat while being charged and exploded in an intensely hot flare or flame, but that was exact cause was still under investigation. Chief Fire Marshal Daniel Flynn said the shop was inspected last August and later cited for safety violations related to battery charging. The number of batteries on the site of electrical system, the shop was fined $1,600. Authorities recently surveilled the store and found there were many batteries there, but none of them were being charged at the time. The man said he was the owner of the bike shop, told the Associated Press that he made his unusual checks at the store before he left Monday night. He denied that any e-bike batteries were being charged. The shop has been there for 6 years. I check before I leave every night. Yeah, and it's easy to actually make a mistake and leave one thing on here or there. I was a manager of a store for a while. We didn't leave things charging, but at the same time, would leave certain things on, like police scanner, accidentally would be left on overnight. You'd walk in the next day and you'd hear it going off. You'd be like, "Oh, forgot to turn that off last night." The 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 CRT TVs in the back room or whatever that would actually be producing camera footage, whatever, would always turn those off. You forget to turn them off on random occasion. Not that it would start a fire, but when it come down to it, it's very easy to actually overlook something because you're tired. You want to go home. You want your day to be over with. Any multitude of reasons on why you'd actually have the potential of leaving things on or plugged in. I checked last night, turned off the power beside the ones for the monitor and the automatic door. He added, I got a call from the neighbor told me about their fire. I went to my shop but couldn't get close. When they were working on the fire, I saw a lot of smoke. My shop is gone. I've been working for nothing for years. Well, guess what? Now you get to get charged with the potential death of these four people, in my opinion. Lau said that he was at the police station waiting to talk to officers Tuesday morning. The blaze started in the neighborhood in the middle of the night. A friend of mine came in and yelled, "There's a fire next door." Neighborhood resident Bilal Aliye told WABC TV, "I step out. I see the flames so hot it's going through the metal gate. I know it was the bike store, so I called the fire department, but the fire kept getting bigger and bigger, and it looks like and it took them a while to stop the fire. Electric bikes have become popular, non-gasoline powered ways of to make deliveries, communicate or commute, and zip around the city has promoted cycling in recent decades. Many run on lithium ion batteries, which have been blamed for numerous fires. In April, in the Queens section of New York, two children were killed in the fire blamed on an e-bike. Another Manhattan fire in November was injured. More than 3 dozen people was caused by malfunctioning e-bike battery. Last year in the city, nearly 2,000, nearly 200 fires and 6 deaths were tied to such batteries, within the 8-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl among those who died in blazes linked to scooter batteries. Fire officials have repeatedly issued warnings and safety tips, and the city passed new regulation this year aimed at preventing battery fires. So we would like to really emphasize today something that we have been saying over and over. It is also very, very important to get the word out on how incredibly dangerous this is. This exact scenario where there's an e-bike store on the first floor and the residents above, and the volume of the fire created by the lithium ion batteries is incredibly deadly. But we're not concerned about switching over all cars to battery run electric cars. No big deal. No big deal. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We'll worry about that when that actually happens. Once we get so many deaths and they're actually wondering why. Lithium ion batteries can catch fire because they contain a flammable electrolyte solution that allows electrical current to flow. Experts say many fires have been linked to such batteries in laptops, cell phones, and other items. 0 times did they say anything about an electric car all the way through this article. Why? Because it's a narrative thing. And this is even the Epic Times that's actually going ahead with this. This is how ridiculous it is, how dangerous it is. And I hope to God this guy actually gets charged with the death of those 4 people. Because you're damn right, he did something wrong. It was his fault. It was his fault through and through. Authorities arrest Democrat donor of California wildfire blamed of climate crises. Oh my Lord. It's all climate. It's all climate change. It's all climate change. Don't look over here. It's all climate change. Last summer, a large wildfire that came to be known as the Oak Fire scorched its way across California, Maricopa County, and threatened Yosemite National Park. First reported in July 2022, or July 22nd, 2022, the Oak Fire burned more than 19,000 acres of land, cost more than $90 million in the evacuations, forced the displacement of thousands of Californians and visitors in the fire's path as it rapidly expanded. Experts say dry air, strong winds, parched trees, and grass with soaring temperatures caused the Oak Fire to expand rapidly through rugged foothills in recent days. The area was experiencing nearly 2 weeks of triple-digit temperatures and low humidity. The Guardian reported the Oak Fire as it spread, all of it comes at a time when the state is seeing increasingly destructive and deadly blazes. Taxpayer-funded PBS emphasized the Oak Fire was one of the devastating consequences of global climate crises. Over at CNN, Chief Climate Correspondent Bill Ware explained how the mega drought driven by climate change was affecting California and other Western states has left plenty of dry, flammable material become fuel so quickly, especially when humidity is low and winds are high. The National Park Service is preparing for more wildfires to come, and the climate change fuels extreme droughts and record high temperatures across the West and the Rocky Mountains. Democrat politicians, such as Senator Alex Padilla, also couldn't let the devastation caused by the fire pass him by without demanding climate action now. ABC News reported that a bone dry environment combined with scorching temperatures and ample fuel, all consequences of climate change, is what allowed the Oak Fire to spread so rapidly from the moment of ignition. As climate change progresses, we anticipate fires like this one to continue to happen in the greater frequency and burn larger areas. Well, there's just one problem. The scientists and climate change pushes outlets here failed to consider at the time that there's a fire might not have been the result of global climate change crises, and instead could have been the handiwork of an individual who financially supported Democrat politicians as well as the Lincoln Project. The convenient truth comes courtesy of the report of the Washington Free Beacon. Authorities busted a Democratic donor for allegedly starting a ginormous inferno in Yosemite National Park. Democratic politicians had insisted climate change was the blame of the blaze, which destroyed more than 100 homes and injured several firefighters. By the numbers, the arson suspect has donated $1,775 to Democratic candidates and committees since 2020. Government records show, including a $1,000 donation to Tim Ryan's failed U.S. Senate campaign in 2022 and $400 to the Lincoln Project, a disgraced liberal super PAC. Maybe, just maybe, Democrats and other congregates in the Church of the Climate Change out of the focus of the action of their own ilk, mainly asking them to put the matches down instead of telling Minnesotans they can't use gas-powered lawnmowers anymore, demanding Californians switch to electric vehicles. They'll be subsequently asked not to charge due to grid instability and seeking to destroy the reliability of the nation's power system by forcing reliable and cheap generation plants offline through executive fiats normally found to be unconstitutional. Some of the forest management and occasional controlled burn wouldn't hurt either to prevent any future alleged Democratic firebugs from sparking devastating infernos. This guy right here, this guy, he's the one that started the fire. It was him. It wasn't climate change. It was a particular person that started it. Yes, I get it. The woods were dry, conditions were right, where the second that it was ignited by this asshole, he decided to actually burn down what was, some 19,000 or $19 million worth of properties. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. It's all climate change. All climate change. I mean, if you're going to watch records of death, then you should be willing to wreck and die as well. Sucks, but just looking at chat real quick to see you guys talking about Yellowstone tours get dangerously close to bison. Stop getting close to the wildlife. Stop it. Stop it. Look at all these people. How ridiculous can you be to actually think this is okay, safe to actually go walk up to any of this? Another act of blatant disregard and wildlife distancing rules in Yellowstone National Park caught a video of Lamar Valley. These folks get a picture followed up by a stern admonishment by the park rangers for getting too close. It's all smiles until one of the 2,000-pound animals flips a switch and decides it doesn't appreciate your paparazzi-style invasion of their space. Ridiculous all these people are. So many people that are just like, "Oh my god, let's get out. Let's go pet it. We should go ride it. Let's go have fun." Yeah, see, it shook its head and it scared the shit out of you. Get back in your vehicle. Get back in your vehicle. Get. Why are people doing this? Why would they think that it's okay? Bison, elk, and all the other wildlife. Never approach wildlife. The animals of Yellowstone wild are unpredictable. No matter how calmer you appear to be, the safest and often best view of the wildlife is from inside a car. Always stay at least 100 yards away from bears, wolves, and at least 25 yards away from all other animals, including bison and elk. I mean, don't even go there. If you have the intention of actually getting out of your vehicle for any reason whatsoever, stop it. Just think again. I mean, maybe natural selection would actually just, should be a thing and just take you out anyway. But, for you to actually go to the point of doing something so ridiculous, of actually getting out of your vehicle to actually go and stand next to it so you can get that, oh, so great shot. Look what I seen. Freaking idiots. Look at this. Elderly woman gets dangerously close to Yellowstone bison. Look how close she is. She's like over the top of this fence and around it or whatever. And it's like she goes to run, she's going to get gored no matter what. Someone needs to come to this granny's home. It does kind of seem like this woman got cut off by the bison, and given that, there's a good chance she can't walk well enough or that she can't walk well or even ground or on even ground. There wasn't much for her to do other than walk dangerously close to the behind of the bison. We're just glad that she didn't get hurt. Of course, Granny should have taken steps to avoid these kinds of situations. Uh, it's just like, Granny, stop it. As always, here's Yellowstone National Park safety tips when encountering a bison. Just stop it. Stop it. Stop trying to get near them. Stop it. uh, Animals are still in charge. Yeah, exactly. Florida County declares a quarantine after African land snail sighting. How big are they? Oh, about the size of your hand. A county in Florida has been placed under quarantine after foreign gastropod arrived near one of its sandy Fort Lauderdale beaches. The invader is an African land snail spotted in the Miramar area of Broward County earlier this month. This type of snail is known to be one of the most damaging mollusk subtypes in the world, according to the Florida's agricultural officials. The quarantine, also initiated on Tuesday by the Agricultural Department's Division of Plant Industry, after officials were able to confirm reports of foreign gastropod, and applies to 3.5 square mile radius in Broward County, including Fort Lauderdale. The department said that the quarantine order will remain in effect while officials treat the surrounding area with metal based molluscicide. CBS News reports the goal is to completely eradicate the pest, which can grow as long as 8 inches and is able to lay thousands of eggs at a time during procreation. The African land snail poses a significant threat to both humans and vegetation. The breed carries a parasite called rat lungworm that can cause meningitis in humans. It also consumes over 500 types of plants as well as paint and stucco that causes property damage, according to the network. Last summer, a quarantine was ordered near Tampa, Florida, in Pasco County after a separate confirmed sighting of an African land snail. Uh, In this week's in the weeks that followed, more than 1,000 African land snails were captured. Florida officials believe that the African land snails were brought into the U.S. by people wanting to keep them as pets. Leave the wildlife alone. Quit bringing your wanting to bring your whatever weird fetish for a pet into this country when they're that evasive, especially when they're going to possibly give you meningitis. You don't need China sending us any other shit, more seeds, no more bugs, no more bioweapons. Right, exactly, Vicky. Pets? Good to see you, dude. I just seriously am like, what the fuck? What the fuck? All right, last one. Last one before we go away. There seems to be a tropical storm, Brett, that could become a hurricane threatening eastern Caribbean. This is one of two tropical waves traversing the Atlantic Ocean, formed into a tropical storm, Brett, with his National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, forecasting the strength of the hurricane as it approaches the Caribbean Sea later this week. In a Tuesday morning update, NHC said that the TS tropical storm Brett could hit islands in Lesser Antilles on Thursday and Friday, putting them at the risk of flooding from heavy rainfall, strong winds, and dangerous storms surge the waves. So you're heading right into this next season or whatever. We actually, is very high chances of tropical storms and or hurricanes occurring in and around the area and pushing themselves up into the states. This one doesn't seem to that it's actually threatening the states, but still, all of those territories that are ours, U.S. Virgin Islands, Antigua, Barbados, Aruba, Trinidad, and Tobago. So it is, heading still in the general vicinity. Might be something that we, might still increase in speed and make it further than what they initially are expecting. Um, Tropical storm Brett is a maximum sustained winds of 40 miles an hour. Really seriously, that's just a projected path. That's not as significant. This is where it's going to go. We can actually, you say exactly that's what's going to happen, where it's going to go. It could actually take itself all the way up into the states if it decided to want to. We are headed into this season, like I said, so something you might be paying attention to see if it actually hits anything, if it does any significant damage. And of course, they're actually calling it El Nino. El Nino's, comeback. El Nino's thing, and this is what also caught my eye on all this or whatever, is they're actually pushing that ocean temperatures around the world have actually increased tremendously this particular season compared to almost any other. It's something that we'll definitely be picking up on and actually paying attention to as the season progresses, as we have potential friends and or family that live in and around the area. I know I do have some family members down in that area of Florida, a couple in Texas that, I'd be actually, concerned for if, something actually decided to happen. Let's see here. So, all that being said, thank you all so very, very much for joining me here tonight. If you haven't done so already, please smash that like button. I attempted to do something slightly different today to actually see how it would work out. Something that's a work in progress. There is a short, uh, per se, a short video that I had produced that was about 8 minutes long. That was on the indictment of uh, Tate. When it comes down to it, Andrew Tate and his brothers and his associates or whatever have all been indicted on charges in of themselves is something that you might want to actually take a glance at and hit that smash the like button on that one as well if you hadn't seen it already. Anybody that's over on that Rumble side, that should actually eventually show up over there as well. Eventually, I don't know if it's already there or not. I haven't actually glanced to see if it actually is. Heidi, what's up, dear? Good to see you. Here's the thing: people can make all the jokes they want about thinning their herd of dumbasses and natural selection. The effed up fact is, the only ones taken out will be the animals, not the morons. I got you, Heidi. I got you. Yeah, I get your point on that, and uh, my joke about natural selection or whatever when it came down to it was really kind of directed to the point of these idiots really need to stop doing the idiot things that they do. uh, and it's just ridiculous that we actually allow people to continue to do whatever it is that they're doing. Is a good stream, the morning coffee time. Take care, Krog, and chat. You have a good one, Nix. We'll see y'all later. Everybody have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is for you. Sleep well if that's what's next in your agenda. Love you all so very much. Thank you for being here. Great Liquor, thank you again for that donation. Greatly appreciated. We'll leave you with one last thought.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Later.